Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Great Lakes Truck Series here. Just the last race before the playoffs begin in this series, and we are here at Texas Motor Speedway for what has been an exciting year so far. Plenty of different winners, plenty of action all over the racetrack. And we've had a bunch of crazy unique racetracks throughout the schedule so far this year, but we're finally back at a standard NASCAR style racetrack here at Texas Motor Speedway, and it seems to be that now that we're back in a normal style of racetrack, we're starting to see a lot of the best guys find their way towards the front of the field. So that's going to be an exciting one to watch tonight. Now, in a little bit here, we will be joined as well in the booth here by Kyle Short. He's just at a slight delay, but for now, just going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the playoffs as a whole, because we got a bunch of different guys that have won races this year. Notably, last race we had Josh Cottle win his way into the playoffs, currently sitting 13th in overall points, but with that win, should be able to find himself into the playoff grid heading into next week as long as he could retain that points position. But we've got plenty of guys just on the outside looking in, and some of those could be, Jake Miller's surprise. Oh no, he has a win. I'm sorry, but we're looking at a bunch of different people all over the grid. One of the big notable ones that's been struggling so far this year has been Elliott Henderson. Struggling a little bit in terms of his finishing positions, has yet to lock up a win, and one of the drivers we kind of expect to try and find his way into the playoffs considering his performance from last season, but has yet to really find that speed to really break through and clock his way into the race. So this is going to be a crucial event for him tonight to not only score a bunch of points, but hopefully try and get a win to make sure he could secure himself in, because he's not looking the most comfortable sitting 15th in the points, losing 5 points from last week's event. 5 positions, I mean. But before we really delve into how crazy this could be for all the points drivers, I feel like you do have to point out a bunch of the guys who are starting out front today, and you see that bright paint scheme of Brandon Barkuski starting out front of the field, and alongside him his 2511 teammate and Zachary Henry, who's been very consistent so far this year. And while he started off with that front row, it sounds like we may finally be joined in the booth by Kyle. Kyle!
Here we are for the cutoff race until we go into the playoffs, and it's going to be an exciting one. One driver I'm going to be watching out for is 120% Mr. Elliott Henderson, seeing if he can get into the playoffs. One of those guys on the outside looking in. I'm going to be watching him all race long.
Yeah, we're just pointing him out earlier on, that he really needs to find his way into the playoffs. He's kind of in a precarious position, noting that last week, after 5 flags, he lost 5 spots in the points standings, and with various people with wins right around and just outside of that top 10 in the points, it's going to move that points gap a lot further up the field. So Elliott's going to either have to make up an extreme amount of points in tonight's race or just simply win, and that might end up being the answer as this race goes on.
Win, win, win. If you remember a couple weeks ago, we were at Charlotte. Elliott Henderson had a great battle with his teammate Jake Miller, who ended up getting the victory from his teammate Elliott Henderson. Tonight, if we're in a similar scenario, I know this is new Texas, not the old Texas, so it's a little bit of a different of a racetrack. But if we be in a similar situation, I would feel like Jake Miller might go a little easy on his teammate, maybe let him get to victory lane to get himself into the playoffs.
Yeah, luckily for Jake Miller as well, he's achieved a victory so far this season, so he'll be able to lock himself into the playoffs. So it looks like Elliott's just going to end up getting a lot of support from teammates here this season. And the only problem with that so far is that Elliott's starting currently in the 6th position, with Jake Miller much further down the order. He's going to be starting in the 11th position, so he's going to have a lot of positions to make up to really have to help his teammate. But he's got plenty of people in front of him that Elliott Henderson has to pass before he could get that win.
Here they come to the green flag as it's waving here for the last race of the regular season. The number 25 of Brandon Barkuski and the number 12 of Zachary Henry lead him to the green. A great start from the number 12 of Henry. He's right there, nose to nose with the 25 going into 1 and 2.
Be careful for Barkuski. He's going to be able to get the line on the bottom and run around him. Now Henry has to defend from that 30 car of Daniel Nanny. He will be able to. Daniel Nanny, another strong competitor, making a start in tonight's race. He's another driver we got to look out for the victory tonight, as it seems like Texas Motor Speedway's dragged in some of the best of the best.
One driver I'm definitely going to be watching out for is that number 6 of Steven Sims. One of those first guys outside of the playoffs, has looked strong throughout the season. Maybe has not gotten some of the finishes that he deserves in the number 6 machine, but he's definitely been a surprise throughout this season, as he's 4th on the inside right now, with Nathan Jump now looking to jump on the inside of the number 6 of Sims.
Nathan Jump, a driver that we've seen with a lot of performance so far this season. Kind of came into this, series brand new to start the year, managed to get a win at Bristol earlier this season, and trying to carry a little bit of momentum going into the playoffs next week at Watkins Glen.
And Nathan Jump has definitely been a surprise this season. He's been good in GLR from the jump. He's been really strong in that 29 machine, and he's looking to maybe snag some more positions here, as he's, like you said, Alex, trying to get some momentum heading into the playoffs, and he's definitely been one of the stronger drivers this season.
I would normally wince at that pun, Kyle, but that was a pretty good one. As we see just behind them, it looks like a bunch of drivers starting to sort it out a little bit. Matthew Durr taking it to the inside of Steven Sims, going down to turns 1 and 2. And my gosh, they were 3 wide over there with Rodriguez on the outside, Elliott in the middle, and Eric Keff up the inside. Managed to negotiate that one through turns 1 and 2. That's a rough corner to try and do that.
Those are 3 interesting drivers right there. They're fighting for a lot. You have Matthew Rodriguez, Elliott Henderson, and Eric Kepf. 3 drivers that made the playoffs last season, and all 3 of them are currently on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting season for them as a whole. Obviously, we noted Elliott Henderson as well, but, Matthew Rodriguez, he has some relatively consistent performances at certain types of racetracks, but does struggle at others, which is kind of why his position in the point standings is a little bit lower, but he is technically ahead of Elliott Henderson in the points, showing that the races he did run in, he ran a little bit better than Elliott, but he's going to also have to be looking for a win this time around, as despite the great performance, there's a lot of good guys out here that might deny them the victory.
Like the battle's now on 3rd spot. Jump is trying to get to the inside of Daniel Nanny in the number 30 machine, just can't quite get to the inside. Right behind him, look at Matthew Durr in the number 2 machine. He's having a good run early here in Texas.
Yeah, noticing so far right at the start, Matthew Durr seems to have a little bit better pace than Steven Sims in front of him, but has really struggled to really complete the pass, so get up the inside, but not really be able to carry the speed off the corner, and that really hurts his ability to make some moves. Have to see how he fares out in the longer runs, as this is a place where you can wear the tires down.
It's pretty easy to wear the tires down here, and it's surprising. You don't think you're wearing out the tires, and all of a sudden the tires are worn out. It's one of those sort of tracks. You don't just blatantly hear the tires just tearing up. It just kind of comes up on the sneak here at Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, all these drivers start to single out a little bit. I think the furthest battle off the field I'm starting to see is kind of around Austin Moore, Senzi, that kind of area, with last week's winner Josh Cottle kind of battling for what I believe is the 13th position, taking one of the short track drivers that dominated last week, putting him on a big mile-and-a-half super speedway, and you see that where his specialties are, not really starting out this race in the greatest position, but looking to make his way up through the field as this race goes on.
Josh Cottle, a driver that locked himself into the playoffs last week when he got that victory, and that number 32 machine. If he didn't get that victory last week, he'd be right there with Henderson and Rodriguez, just one of those guys right outside of the playoffs, looking in.
And he's another one of those drivers that, because of his victory as well, that really hurts his competitors in Elliott Rodriguez, because it moves that playoff bubble much further up in the points, as he's below the top 10 in points. With that victory, that would move him in, and that's going to make it really difficult for these guys to get in on points without that victory. So Josh Cottle really helping his playoff chances as these races start to go on.
It's fairly calm throughout the field, but everybody's stayed fairly close together here, Alex. I'm surprised that we haven't seen bigger gaps throughout the field, but not too hard of racing, pretty much single file throughout.
I've been more shocked by the fact that Cottle and Austin Moore here have stayed side by side for as long as they've have, because this is not normally a racetrack where you race side by side.
Zach Henry, right when I'm saying there's no battles on the track, Henry was able to go down to the inside in 1 and 2 and jump as well in the inside in 1 and 2 for third. Can Zachary Henry take away the race lead from his teammate Brandon Barkuski in the number 25? Barkuski's going to fall in behind his teammate for now. Henry gets loose. He's going to have to save it off the corner. Barkuski goes to the high side.
That was extremely tight there off turn 4. That's not a good place to get loose, but that drags in third and fourth position. Now Nathan Jump takes away the third spot as the two leaders in front of him are battling. Does he try and take this opportunity to go 3 wide? This would be a great space to do it, as 3 and 4 is a fantastic place. He goes low to try and help out Zach Henry and leave Barkuski out on the outside. How's this going to pay off for him? He's got a block behind from Daniel Nanny, but it looks like that they're still battling for the lead. None of them can get clear just yet.
Here comes Steven Sims in the number 6 machine. He's beginning to drive these drivers down too. Matthew Durr, they're all beginning to catch up. There's a big battle at the front. Henry's still not quite clear of his teammate Barkuski. Is he going to clear him off 1 and 2? He will. Henry moves up in front of his teammate in the number 25. Gets very loose off the corner. Henry dives down to the inside in 3 and 4.
And now Nanny trying to take advantage of Nathan Jump checking up on the inside. He's going to push Barkuski around the top. See if that momentum carries him off turn 4. Yes, it will. That's going to allow Barkuski to almost clear Nathan Jump into turn 1. Not just yet, but Daniel Nenny wants to try and take advantage of that. But it just looks like that outside lane is just not good enough to hold on.
Henry leading the field for the first time today out in front while the battle continues for second. Elliot Henderson has entered the conversation. Talked about him earlier, the driver of the number 37, aka Mr. Bobby Carter. GLR's most winningest driver, trying to get up here and steal a spot in the playoffs as the battle continues for third in front of him.
Ooh, I almost thought Elliott was going to take it 3 wide there underneath Matthew Durr. He thinks better of it. Sticks side by side for the 6th position, but the battle ahead of them as well. They're going to be 3 wide out of turn 2, though, as Matthew Durr seems to get tied off the corner. Allows Steven Sims around the outside. Now can Elliott carry that through 3 and 4? But no, he will not be able to. Steven Sims gets the spot, and just ahead of him, Daniel Nanny gets the spot back from Nathan Jump for 3rd.
The Jump is just not quite able to clear that number 30 of Nanny. Nanny back out in front of the number 29 of Jump. Sims holding it tight in that 5th spot, but here comes Elliot Henderson. He's putting the pressure on the number 6 machine.
So far, it's looking like Elliott's got some decent longer run pace. This is about where you start to see the comers and goers start to move around about 15, 20 laps into the run. So if these guys have really been pushing it hard on tires, you're going to start seeing them go very far backwards, especially down through turns 1 and 2. But the guys who really preserve their stuff are going to have a lot of speed here coming onto these next 10 to 15 laps.
One driver I think has been preserving his tires probably the most, at least out of this front 5 or 6 drivers, has definitely been that number 12, our race leader, Zach Henry. Took it really easy, just hung out behind his teammate Brandon Barkuski, dove to the inside, and Barkuski made the pass rather easy on his teammate. So I don't see very much wear on that number 12 machine's tires. I would expect him to probably be the strongest on the long run, but I've been wrong before.
Well, looks like Daniel Nanny wants to try and put himself in that picture as he's going up the inside of Brandon Barkuski for the 2nd position. He might get a little bit of help here from Nathan Jump. Oh, but Barkuski's going to close the door on him down into turn 3. He barely got himself clear, but Nanny is really good down here in 3 and 4. He gets a lot of momentum coming off turn 4. Is he going to pull the move to the inside? No, this time he's going to try and take it to the outside. Barkuski blocks low, but can't block low enough. Daniel Nanny to the inside of turns 1 and 2.
Nanny able to cross over to the inside. He's looking to clear Barkuski off the corner, and he's just barely clear. Bump! He gets a bump from Barkuski, and now Nathan Jump is all over Barkuski, and he backs out of the situation.
That was almost bad for all 3 of them right there. Daniel Nanny very tight off turn 2, and Nathan Jump almost hitting the wall down the back straight. That's going to cost him, as now Steven Sims and Elliot Henderson are trying to put a train on him up the inside.
You have to keep in mind, Brandon Barkuski, he's been running in the top 3 or top 5 in points pretty much all season long. Comes into this race 4th in points, but he's only 12 points above the cut line coming into this race. So if he wrecks out, that could be the end of his season right then and there.
Yeah, we also got to consider as well that, there's a lot of drivers that are around him in points that aren't performing nearly as well as he is right now. So you got to worry about the fact that even if he does wreck out, how many points are the guys behind him even going to be able to gain? Because, Hunter Madalinas is kind of buried in the field right now, our points leader. He's about 17th position. Austin Moore is only 1 spot ahead of him. He's behind him in the point standings. And Ashton Lawson's 13th. So right now, Barkuski doesn't really need to push that hard to lock himself into the playoffs coming up here after this race. So, even if he wrecks, it doesn't look too bad.
Barkuski hanging out in that 3rd spot right now, and it's calmed down at the front for the most part. This front 3 has kind of separated themselves from 4th place. Steven Sims on back. Sims in front of Elliot Henderson. Right behind him, you have Nathan Jump. Then you have Matthew Rodriguez and Tyrell Baker up to the 8th spot, TCB. Then you have in the 9th spot, you have Jake Miller. And then rounding out your top 10, you have Matthew Durr, who's fallen back a couple spots in the last few laps.
Yeah, the interesting thing here with Tyrell Baker sitting there in the 8th position, he's our 2nd biggest mover through the entire field from the 16th position up to the 8th spot, but he's got a lot of pressure behind from Jake Miller, one of the guys last season's champion, wanting to put himself in the picture, coming to a standard 1.5-mile style racetrack. But Tyrell Baker, kind of a bit of a shock here, putting a good performance here at Texas Motor Speedway.
Not too big of a shot. Baker, a very strong race car driver, but yeah, he's driving through the field fairly quickly here in that number 025 machine. But this is the biggest mover right here, Nathan Nicholson in the number 99 machine. You just saw him on your screen for a second there. He's trying to get up there, Nathan Nicholson, and maybe try to compete for a victory here tonight. There he is once again, coming out of turns 1 and 2 in that yellow number 99.
Yeah, Nicholson this season being one of the playoff spoilers, being the only driver this season with multiple victories, but due to the lack of starts this season is not eligible for the playoffs. And with the speed that he's got moving through the field, he could be playing another spoiler today at Texas Motor Speedway. So this is a driver that, as the race goes on, we're going to see him creep through the field, but I think we might get a pass to the lead here as Daniel Nanny had a massive run off turn 2 up the inside of Zachary Henry. Henry got really tight and was slow out of turn 2. Nanny backed it up, and he's going to clear him through 3 and 4.
The last 2 or 3 laps, Nanny has just been flying compared to Henry and Barkuski. We'll see if he can maybe drive away from the number 12 of Henry, or if Henry's able to keep toe now that he's right in behind the number 30 of Nanny.
It's an interesting line to see him take there, take the very wide entry into turn 1 and arc it all the way down to the bottom of turn 2. Gets him a lot of speed coming off the exit of the corner, and that seems to be where he's able to make passes. And we see just here behind them, Elliot Henderson trying to put himself into the top 4 up the inside of Steven Sims, who nearly tail whips the wall coming off turn 4. That should allow Elliot to clear him down into turn 1 and put Elliot Henderson to 4th.
Henderson able to move up to the 4th spot. Now the battle's on for 5th. Is Sims able to hold off Jump? Jump trying to clear Sims off turns 1 and 2. Not going to clear him quite yet. Sims gets a great run off the corner. Can Henderson maybe separate himself with the number 29 and the number 6?
It looks like Elliot's going to be able to pull away, but this battle's going raging behind him for the top 5 spot. Nathan Jump looking to recover from that nearly deadly 3-wide incident earlier on in the race. He's going to be able to get up to the 5th position ahead of Steven Sims. Got to make sure he blocks it off, though, off turn 2. Looks like Sims has got a big run, but might not be able to take it down to turn 3. Put Nathan Jump to 5th.
Jump moves back into the top 5. Sims falls back to 6th. Matthew Rodriguez approaching these two not too far back in that number 57 machine.
So from what I'm seeing on the scoring pylon, it seems the biggest breakaway is behind Jake Miller from 9th to 10th. There's a giant gap to him and Ashton Lawson. So it seems to be a 9-car race for the lead. I mean, they're surprisingly close for this deep in the run at Texas Motor Speedway. We are almost 30 laps into the event. We still have 9 cars who could put themselves in the picture for the victory. But right now, the top 2 leaders are looking to put an end to that as they have very superior pace over the field. But Eric Kef takes it to the pit lane. We may see the pit window opening now.
Not too surprising to be seeing Mr. Pink, Eric Kef, coming down pit road first. He's a driver, really. He's a really smart race car driver, and he does a lot of different sort of strategies, and so it's not surprising to see him be the first one on pit road. Actually, it looks like Gavin Fitzgerald might have came in 1 lap earlier, as other takers are now coming down pit road, I'm hearing on the radio.
Man, Kyle, this is going to make it very awkward to the finish, as they're going to be, around about 10 laps short at this pace to making it to the end on fuel. And even if you stretch it the next couple laps here, you would have had to make it to at least lap 34, 35 to have a chance at saving fuel to the finish. So this is going to be very awkward as everybody's starting to come down the pit lane.
Pit stops have started. I'm worried that maybe Josh Cottle might have been speeding. He was sliding into pit road. You might have saw that.
Oh my gosh, we almost had Barkuski run into the field entering the pit lane as almost all the leaders, excluding Henderson and Nathan Jump, all come down the pit lane, but that was very close between Barkuski, Elliott, and Nathan Jump.
Very close coming down pit road. Will everybody get into their pit box okay out of these drivers? Henderson now leading the field, getting a bonus point for leading a lap here.
Right now, Elliot Henderson's going to be coming down pit lane. Looks like Nathan Jump will be as well. And pretty much the entire field behind him follows, looking to see if anybody decides to stay out. No, it looks like pretty much everybody's at the very edge of their fuel window. Nobody can make it any further. So that, like I said, is going to make it very awkward for the pit window. And it's going to end up being an interesting fuel strategy and pit strategy to the finish. We may see some two-tire calls if this goes green to the end.
Yeah, we're going to definitely see some various strategies throughout the rest of the night here at Texas Motor Speedway. Nanny was able to beat Henry out of pit road, and both of them got out in front of Brandon Barkuski by almost 2 seconds. Barkuski, oh, and they're going sideways here. Matthew Rodriguez and Nathan Nicholson.
Oh, what a...
Oh my gosh. Monkey see, monkey do coming out of turn 4.
I was gonna say, what a disaster for the field right there, because so many people got trapped a lap down with cars just coming off the pit lane when the caution came out. This may be the strategy gamble of a lifetime for Elliot Henderson, because he may have come out with the lead with the timing of the caution.
Looks like he's at least behind Henry here. It looks like Henderson in the number 37. Now he's waiting. He's waiting. It looks like for a couple of drivers. The number 37.
This may be a very awkward iRacing situation right here. A lot of the field may have just gotten trapped a lap down. It's just a matter of what half the field got trapped a lap down, because frankly, I don't think I've ever seen caution timing like that before.
A very interesting timed caution. It wasn't just in the pit window. It was in a very awkward time in the pit window, and a very interesting incident as well coming out of turn 4. I think we're trying to get you a replay on the incident between Matthew Rodriguez and Nathan Nicholson. Here we go. Matthew Rodriguez on the inside in the 57 machine, and then Nathan Nicholson, and they both just self-spin out of 3 and 4, and they pretty much the exact same spot, and they almost hit each other right there through the grass. Nathan Nicholson just slammed the gas after that, and luckily both of them were able to keep it clean and just drive through the grass.
I honestly, Kyle, I have no idea what even happened there. To see 2 drivers simultaneously spin out like that, I've never seen something like that before.
I'm trying to keep an eye on what's going on in the race here. Very confusing on what's going on in the caution here, but here's the onboard look of Nathan Nicholson, and yeah, they just kind of go dirt tracking off turns 3 and 4 and go through the grass. Luckily, they were able to save it, not get any damage, but a very, very, very interesting incident here. One I don't think I've seen before.
So what it looks like is happening on the racetrack is that Elliot Henderson and pretty much everybody that pit with him is going to end up having to take the wave around, and it leaves, I believe, only a few drivers out on the race, because so far the leader is counted as Daniel Nanny in the middle of this field, with Elliot Henderson just behind the pace truck, but Elliot Henderson's counted in the 17th position. So it looks like everybody from 17th on back currently on the lead lap is going to be forced to take a wave around. This is a absolutely bizarre scoring situation right here, because I thought that the caution came out when they were off of the pit lane, which would have put them ahead of the guys out on the racetrack due to the position in which they came out. So frankly, I'm not sure what's going on with the scoring here, but according to our scoring, Daniel Nanny and Zachary Henry are front 2.
I think that's just what happened. Is the iRacing just kind of had a little bit of a malfunction when it came to scoring because of these drivers coming off of pit lane right when the caution came out. So I think that's probably what happened. You see, there's the caution coming out on the front straightaway. So I feel like that's the best explanation here, and it's very difficult for a lot of those drivers because they're going to be single file. Those drivers are going to be single file in the back of this pack, and they're going to have to race around the field. I'm interested to see if maybe we'll extend this caution by an extra lap.
Yeah, one of the awkward situations here as well is that the drivers that spun with Rodriguez and Nicholson actually are on the lead lap, so they will have track position over the other guys who were in the pit lane. So, I mean, they caused the caution, but end up benefiting slightly from it in a weird way. But this is also a situation as well where you could have plenty of people who are currently counted as the lead lap. I'm not sure if any of them came down the pit lane, but it would have been a good way to kind of put yourself in a better position on fuel and try and see if you could stretch it to the end.
This gave track position to a driver like Gavin Fitzgerald. Nicholson was able to move up a good amount of spots, and he seems really quick here early. So that's a driver I'm definitely going to be watching out for on the restart. There you see Elliot Henderson pulling around the field, currently running in the 17th position, but he had to get the wave around as most of the field did, and they're going to be in a single file line behind the double file top 15 as they're about to take the green flag coming off 3 and 4 here. Here comes the iRacing pace truck. He's going to come down pit road, and Daniel Nanny is going to lead him to the green flag on this odd-looking restart here. Good restart from the number 30 as he takes off on the inside. Henry does not get going as well as he did on the last restart. And the number 25 of Barkuski on the inside ahead, and the battle's now on for second.
Significantly bigger jump for our leader that time around. I think Zach Henry's going to actually lose the spot to Barkuski, and he's going to fall all the way back to the third position. Steven Sims might be looking up the inside as he has a little bit of a connection issue, but receives a big block, and Barkuski almost gets in the left rear quarter as he gets loose on the bottom, nearly causes a caution, and now there's a giant stack up, 3 wide, multiple rows deep, but a caution's in the back. Oh, and they're spinning down the front as well. Steven Sims got spun around. I'm missing who that car is. It's also stopped at the bottom of turn 1. I think that's Austin Moore.
It looks like Jake Miller went around in 3 and 4, and there was contact with Barbagelata. Barbagelata went around as well. Ashton Lawson has a good amount of nose damage. Lawson isn't locked in as well.
So it looks like the initial cause of the caution was firstly from contact between Rodriguez and Barbagelata, which then caused a wreck at the back of the field. But then further up the field at the front pack, there was a separate wreck altogether with Sims, Moore, and a couple others.
We're going to take a look at the incident between Matthew Rodriguez and Michael Barbagelata going into 3 and 4 first. There you see Elliot Henderson also with them as well. They wreck on the inside. Barbagelata able to keep it straight, but Lawson gets in the back end of Miller. Miller just not able to hang on, and he goes spinning in the number 4 machine. Very heavy hit for Jake Miller.
Yeah, and then separately further up the field, you saw an incident where Steven Sims got spun around through the grass, just barely caught it on our cameras here before we caught on to the caution. Interested to see what happened here, because he was up in the top 4, and then we saw some struggles for Barkuski, who got loose at the bottom. You see it right there. Then they get put 3 wide. Eric Kepf up the inside, Zach Henry on the outside. Had to see where the contact happened here, but Sims kind of blinking out a little bit, which could have caused it. And I'm frankly unsure who made contact there, because Sims had disappeared before the moment of contact. So I'm not sure whether it was Nicholson from the outside or Kepf from the inside, but it looks like, based on how he spun, it might have been Kepf.
Yeah, it looked like the incident was caused because of the number 6's warp and spun across the nose of the 63, and there you see the aftermath. Moore goes around, a little bit of contact with Fitzgerald, and Fitzgerald is trying to save it, going all the way down into 1 and 2, and there you see Austin Moore parked on the inside of the racetrack. You hate to see it. We're going to take an onboard look actually from the number 91 of Austin Moore and see what he sees on this incident. Currently on the high side right here of Gavin Fitzgerald, right behind Nicholson. Sims is gone. He's spinning. Fitzgerald reacts, gets a little into Moore. They were 3 wide coming out of there, very tight quarters, and Moore hits that nose on the inside, and that's where it's going to hurt your car right there, is getting that nose or hood damage.
Yeah, and sadly, unlike the next-gen car that we have here on the service, these trucks do not like to take a beating. They make the slightest bit of contact and can significantly lose pace, especially at a racetrack of this size. And anything in the front end is almost a race killer for the most part. So several drivers in those incidents with damage enough to really put them out of contention for the victory. But the timing of this caution is quite the predicament for some of these guys. It didn't seem like many of them took the gamble, but if you were to pit at this point, I believe there's a good shot that you could stretch it to the end on fuel if this goes green without having to make an extra pit stop. Pretty much everybody out front of the field right now does not have enough fuel that if this goes green, for them to take an extra pit stop off the end, they would be short by several laps, while everybody who pits here will make it just barely to the finish.
I think some of these drivers are also going to be expecting on more caution flags. 41 laps in, 2 caution flags here early at Texas Motor Speedway, and cautions breed cautions, and the pace only picks up throughout the race. And a track like Texas, we've been seeing it throughout the race already. No matter how many laps they really put on these tires, they're able to at least stay within close proximity of one another, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing right now, is now you got everybody all stacked up, unlike last time where there was just a giant train at the back end of the field. Now, with the caution, everybody stacks back up 2 by 2, so now the guys who did have some issues with the scoring problems last time are now going to slightly move further up the field thanks to that caution, though for some of them, maybe no thanks because they received damage from it. But for drivers, say, like Elliot Henderson, this is a bit of an advantage because he was a bit further back in the field, a lot further back on the racetrack. He's going to be starting on the outside, which seems to be the spot that if a wreck happens, you're more likely to avoid it that way than if you're on the bottom. So, this will be something we got to watch out for as the drivers around turns 3 and 4.
Gonna see how hard they go on this restart here and see how hard they race and how aggressive some of these drivers get and try to get themselves into position for a potential long run. I'll have to see if they're able to get some laps underneath these tires as the Pace truck is going to pull down pit road here. Nanny leading on the inside, the number 25 of Barkuski on the high side. And the green flag is out for the number 30 of Nanny, and Barkuski does not go at all on that high side. And Zachary Henry is going to clear him into 1 and 2. And Barkuski throws the block on Sims all the way down to the bottom of the track.
That was an aggressive block there from Barkuski on, mind you, the damaged vehicle of Steven Sims. There's a couple guys up here in the top 10 that have damaged vehicles from that previous caution, decided to stay out. And that could cause some problems for all the guys with newer trucks trying to make their way through the field, but we got to be watching out for that 99 truck as he looks to be trying to take it up the inside of Barkuski for the
and they're
spot.
sitting at 3 and 4. There goes the 008 punt through the grass. Well, a couple other drivers almost went around too, but they're able to keep it green for now, and DuPont almost spins it coming back onto the track.
But it looks like they've kept it green for now. They've all saved it to make it their way back through the field, but several drivers put out of order because of that incident up there. And now the field is very, very spread out. As I'm seeing 3 wide around where Elliot Henderson is, this could be sketchy coming off turn 4, almost 4 wide as I saw some drivers moving around. These drivers are going all over the place through the front straightaway. Oh, Elliot almost got sideways going through the grass down the tri-oval.
Henderson racing very hard with Call right there on the front straightaway. They're able to keep it straight for now. Not missing anything too much at the front, battling back here very hard. Nicholson approaching a battle for third, though, potentially here as well. Nicholson putting the pressure on Barkuski.
Oh, out of turn 4, he's not going to be able to get it. But these drivers back here, this is the mess back here. We got to be watching Elliot. We talked about him at the start of the day. He's got to have a good run here. Got some problems going on with that scoring issue under caution while he was coming out of the pit lane, trying to make the recovery trip, but in the absolute hornet's nest back here with cars going all over the place, and he's got very little places to go.
Henry dives to the inside, going into 3 and 4. Can he clear him? Clear Daniel Nanny coming out of 4. He will not. Gets a little loose out of the corner. Nanny gets a great run off. and he's going to be at his door still going into turns 1 and 2. Henry's going to send it in the corner, and he clears the number 30. Does he jump up in front of him coming out of the corner? And he will.
Got a little bit of help there from Barkowski. Actually, Henry's going to help Barkowski with some draft down on the bottom, assist him going down to turns 3 and 4, kind of leaving Daniel Nanny out on the outside. Nicholson trying to follow him through as well. Daniel Nanny, but they're wrecking Josh Cottle around in turn 4, hits the outside wall massively, and he's backwards in the racetrack.
Yeah, Cottle hitting the wall hard. I think I saw somebody get into him in the door. But a lot of damage to that number 32 of Josh Cottle, fresh off his victory at Five Flags a week ago.
I'm sure he's glad he got that victory. He's still got to retain points positions, mind you. He can't fall too far down the points order, because if he does, his win will not count him into the playoffs. He's got to be in the top 20. While he's 13th in the point standings and is likely not at jeopardy, one really, really bad night here tonight with his other competitors outscoring him could spell some disaster, but we got to see what happened here through turns 3 and 4, and all contact with Tyrell Baker into Fitzgerald, and Cottle was just the innocent victim out in the third lane on the outside, tagged and spun around in turn 4.
And it looked like Henderson sends it to the inside of Fitzgerald, and then Baker tries to follow him through and gets a little bit into the left side of the number 14 of Fitzgerald, and that destroys Cottle's 32 very hard in that outside wall coming out of turns 3 and 4. A couple of drivers actually came down pit road, it looked like, this time to maybe do what you were talking about and try that strategy when it comes to fuel, Alex.
Well, I mean, now if you were to pit, you'd easily make it on fuel, but now the question is, the guys that stayed out, would they be able to make it on fuel? Because we've had enough caution laps that you could have saved a good amount of fuel. Mind you, restarts do burn a lot of extra, but I think the bigger strategy here on top of the fuel is to get tires. I mean, we've run a decent amount of laps under green along with the caution laps, enough so that new tires could make a difference. And for these guys at the back half of the field, which is where everybody pit, could be the difference between them kind of being stuck at the back of the field for the rest of the race or being able to find their way back at the front.
Nathan Nicholson has exited the event, unfortunately. Driver the number 99 will end up finishing 28th tonight, and that number 99 machine started off very strong. Didn't seem like he had any damage, but came down pit road and decided to park it for the day. The driver the number 99 machine. Hope to see him maybe next week at the Glen. Very strong road course racer. We'll possibly see him there. But Zach Henry leads the field here right now in that number 12 machine, and it's kind of been between him, Barkowski, and Nanny. Those seem to be the three strongest drivers here tonight, Alex.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we're going to be losing one of the most competitive guys on the night, but we still have everybody who's been at the front of the field the entire race. So, you know, even with the damage, Steven Sims staying up there in the top 4, Austin Moore with some damage up in the top 5, first of his on the day to make it himself up in that position. Eric Keff, who was kind of in the back half, the top 10, he makes his way up to the 6th position, and several others we've not really talked about a lot tonight, finding their way up into the top 10 with some decent points positions.
That's some good races for some of these drivers that really need it. Sims putting on a decent run in that number 6 machine, running in the top 5 most of the day, and that number 6 machine spun around not too long ago, but he needs to snag some points to try to get himself into the playoffs. And some of these drivers like Eric Kepf, he's kind of really leaning a little more towards getting into the playoffs as well. He's very close, right outside the playoffs, and Sensi as well. They're running around 15th most of the day, though, in that number 92 machine. He needs to get up there and maybe compete to try to get himself into the playoffs.
Yeah, because from what I'm looking at here at the point standings, I believe it's either RJ Williams or Michael Sensi who started off this race on the playoff bubble, as they are without wins, but currently in the top 10 in points. But with other people with wins behind him, moves them down the order to the bubble. And one of the first drivers outside of that would be either Eric Kepf or Steven Sims, who are looking to make their way into the playoffs. And both of them in or just outside of the top 5 having decent runs today. And so the battle, I think, is going to be massively between those two to make their way into the playoffs.
One lap to green, but yeah, you might be right there, Alex. It could come down to the very end of this race on who makes it and who doesn't. Try to get you the standings after the regular season finale at the end of this race. We'll have to see how quickly those standings would get updated, but we'll try to get you those results at the end of the event. Zachary Henry leading the field. Barkuski on his high side on this upcoming restart. He's going to have Daniel Nanny right behind him in the number 30 machine. Steven Sims on the high side in that number 6 machine. He's searching for a win. He's searching for max points. Austin Moore and Eric Kep not too far behind either. I'm interested to see how Austin Moore can do on a long run with all that damage on the number 91. The pace truck is going to pull down pit road once again here after caution number 3. Zachary Henry leading him to the green flag this time in the number 12, and it's in the air. A good start from him. Barkuski wasn't quite ready on the high side. Nanny might clear Barkuski going into 1.
That was interesting to see that Barkuski did not get that good of a start. Him and Zach Henry are teammates. I would have expected a more coordinated restart out of the two of them, but it looks like further back here we're already going to be going 3 wide, but Daniel Nanny's not wasting any time. He's going for the lead up the inside. Daniel Nanny with a great restart up the inside lane. He's going to be able to get that position on Zach Henry. And just behind them, Barkuski almost get run into the back end by Steven Sims, and that's going to allow a bunch of drivers to run up on top of him here.
Goes from 3rd to 1st with ease on the first lap of that restart. Nanny back to point. Barkuski trying to hold off Austin Moore and Steven Sims for that 3rd spot. Austin Moore on the inside of Sims. Barkuski can't decide if he wants to go low or high. Here comes his teammate Chris Heller in the number 11 machine. He's trying to get up in the top 5 for the first time today.
He's kind of stuck behind these 2 cars, though, that are too wide in front of him. Really has nowhere to go unless he wants to take it 3 wide. And just behind them as well, they're 2 wide with R.J. Williams and Eric Kep. And they're just kind of letting the leaders go away. That's Austin Moore, though, gets clear with a bit of help from Chris Heller. Now he's going to try and get the spot on Steven Sims up the inside, down the back straightaway. But Eric Kep looking low, going to go all the way to the apron. But a big block from Chris Heller is going to stop that from happening.
Heller had to take a really low entry and got a little sideways in the center of the corner, but luckily enough able to keep up his speed in that number 11 machine and continues to put the fight on. Henry going to dive to the inside of the number 30 of Nanny, thinks better of it, backs off. His teammate Barkuski's going to have to back off as well on the inside.
That's one unique thing here about Texas Motor Speedway is there's different ways to run that line. The fastest way is taking that wide entry into turn 1, but what that does, it opens up the door, like you saw with Zach Henry there, diving it up the inside of turn 1 and really makes that corner exit awkward for the leader. That's something we're going to have to watch out for tonight, as Daniel Nanny likes to run that wider line, but Zach Henry loves to go in a little bit lower. And that could be the difference between who wins the race tonight and who ends up losing.
Nanny's still holding the lead, but Henry and Barkuski are right there. The battle continues around 5th position. You have the number 6 of Sims on the inside, and on the high side you have Christopher Heller, driver of the number 11 machine. Can he get past Sims? And here comes Eric Kep in the 63. These 3 have been battling it out the last few laps. Heller trying to get to the high side of Sims.
He's got to watch out, though. Eric Kep's going to take it up the inside. Should be an easy defense here from Heller, but it doesn't look like he's got the run off the corner he needs. Going to get a little tight here with Sims coming up. Oh boy, he gets boxed in there in the outside lane. It's going to allow Eric Kep to try and get the spot on him. That outside lane seems to be a death sentence if he gets stuck out there all alone.
Heller was trying to get that spot from Sims, and it's going to end up costing him a spot, it looks like, to Eric Kep. Might want to drop down in front of the number 21 of Williams before he gets next to him. And he will. He's going to drop down to the inside, but now Sims on the high side. Kep does not get off the corner well, and they're almost making contact off of 2.
That was very tight between those 2 drivers. Chris Heller doing the crossover in turns 1 and 2 and gets back underneath Eric Kep, will clear him off turn 4. easy pass there for the 11. He moves his way up into the 6th position, just ahead, and then the battle behind between RJ Williams and Elliott Henderson rages on, but it looks like Elliott Henderson might have to concede the spot.
Hunter Brittle going to get out of the way of these drivers. Very slow number 10 machine with a lot of damage on
and
the
it opens
side.
up the door, Kyle. We almost had contact down into turn 3 as they moved around the lap car. Elliott Henderson almost got into the back end of RJ Williams and turned him around.
Elliott Henderson trying to get up there and maybe get a win and get himself into the playoffs here at the very end of the regular season, trying to take away the 8th spot from RJ Williams. He has a lot of speed that got put at the back because of the error when the caution came out. He ended up getting a wave around. He's had to work his way back, and he's back up here in the top 10 now, aiming for the top 5.
He's getting some good help here from Tyrell Baker. Might get a little bit of help. The 2 Chevy trucks pushing it up the inside of that Toyota. Down into turn 1, can Elliott Henderson hold that line? He's got the better preferred lane, but RJ Williams with a massive run around the outside. Can he hold it, or will Elliott be able to get the run off? Oh, it's a bit tight, but I think RJ Williams is cleared, and he will down into turn 3. Elliott slots back in line.
Williams able to clear Henderson for now. Baker right in behind him, and here comes Matthew Durr, the driver of the number 2, not too far behind as well. Here you see Heller and Kep. They've fallen back a little bit from Sims. The front 5 is trying to separate themselves from the field.
Yeah, and the biggest surprise I'm seeing in this top 5 are the 2 trucks of Austin Moore and Steven Sims with visible damage on the left side of their vehicles are keeping up some decent pace with the rest of the field. As a matter of fact, being faster than some of the guys ahead of them. With Austin Moore looking to get aggressive here with Barkowski, might want to try and make the move here in a second here because he's definitely got some better pace in him right now.
Henderson's still trying to get past Williams back there, but yeah, you were talking about their damage. Those 2 drivers of Sims and Moore, and right now they're running pretty strong, but I'm curious on how strong they would be if we ended up going on a long run, because most likely they're working their trucks a little bit harder than the rest of these drivers.
Yeah, it's the biggest issue when you have to talk about damaged trucks and running well is always, if they're up front early on, it means that they're pushing their vehicle past what it'll do. And they almost always have problems on the longer run. I'd be surprised to see these guys up the field any longer than the next 10 laps or so, because they'll start to fall off pretty bad as those tires start to wear.
Nanny trying to separate himself from Henry a little bit. He's pulled away a couple of hundredths the last couple of laps, not able to really fully separate himself from the number 12 of Henry, but he's pulled out an extra truck length the last lap or 2, just trying to get away, and Henry slips up actually in 1 and 2, and he's going to lose a lot of time here. Brandon Barkowski right on his bumper coming out of 2.
Not a big enough run for him to make the move, but I've noticed Henry have some problems off turn 2 several times this race. He just seems to struggle with negotiating the difficult turns 1 and 2 around here at Texas. I mean, those are 2 very difficult corners. The awkward banking and wideness of the corner makes it a very weird place to negotiate when through turns 3 and 4, you're pretty much full throttle the whole time around.
Good racing throughout the field and throughout this event so far. Nanny leading the field, and so far these drivers have only fallen off around a second off their quickest lap time. These drivers have around 35 laps on their tires, a lot of caution laps as well, but not very much fall off, at least not as much as we were expecting here tonight.
Yeah, but as this run starts to go on, you're going to start to see that pace really start to slow up. I mean, just that last lap, almost all the leaders lost almost a full 10th. You know, this racetrack's a tricky one. It kind of tricks you into thinking your tires will be all right, and then all of a sudden they just disappear out of absolutely nowhere. One of those racetracks where you can be turning the corner very comfortably, and the next lap you can't turn at all. And that's something we're going to be watching here, is it looks like Chris Heller and Elliott Henderson have some better pace than Steven Sims ahead of them. Elliott might be making the move here up the inside out of turn 2, Good run for Elliott as he's trying to make his way up to the field. Not able to get fully to the inside as Heller once again closes the door. Might be making a couple drivers mad tonight with how many times he's blocked them off down into turn 3.
Heller able to hold off Henderson for now. He gets to the inside of Sims going into turns 1 and 2, and Henderson going to try to follow him through here. Heller trying to clear Sims, and it looks like he will clear him coming out at 2. He jumps out in front of Sims. Can Henderson now follow him through on the inside, looking to move himself up to the 6th spot?
And mind you, Steven Sims, one of those damaged trucks we were talking about that were running in the top 5, starting to struggle here on the longer run like we expected. But the kind of outlier here is Austin Moore ahead of him. Arguably, another driver who got damaged from the incident is we see Eric Keff down pit road here. He was running just inside the top 10. Could be opening the fuel window for some of these drivers, but Austin Moore holding on long enough that I think we're going to be approaching the pit window. So the damage not affecting these guys nearly as bad as we expected. The fuel run's just not long enough to really punish these guys for their damage.
Henderson getting a little loose on the inside there, but able to hang on. Currently still running in that 6th position. Yeah, we had a couple takers on pit road. It looked like RJ Williams and Matt Durr came down pit road in the number 21 and the number 2. It looks like Shiflett came down pit road as well. Interested to see if we're going to have more takers this time by. I think I just heard Steven Sims come over the radio saying that he's coming down pit road this time by, the driver of the number 6 machine.
Well,
here comes more.
I was gonna say that going on to this next lap, we saw drivers stretch it to about 32 laps on the first initial run. All these guys who stayed out did end up having enough fuel to end up cutting out an extra pit stop at the finish. So I think it's, from this point on, it's going to be one more stop after this coming one here, as we're seeing several drivers, including the leaders, pitting in this time by. Daniel Nanny takes a hard left-hand turn. That assumes the lead to Zachary Henry. Chris Heller follows him. These drivers going an extra lap on fuel. But the caution is out with Daniel Nanny on pit road. Disaster for that car. We may see some more scoring issues. Got to find where the wreck was on the racetrack. Not sure, I heard it somewhere, but I'm not sure who the driver was that caused it.
Caution flag is out at Texas once again, right in the middle of the pit window on the second to last pit stop of the night here at Texas Motor Speedway. Henry has the race lead. A lot of drivers came down pit lane, but some drivers are still out there on the racetrack, including Elliott Henderson, who got bit by this last time, and he's able to work it to his advantage this time as he's in the 3rd spot now.
Oh, it looks like the wreck may have been with Austin Moore down the front straightaway, who was just behind Christopher Heller as he was coming into the pit lane. I believe it may have been contact between him and Tyrell Baker coming out of turn 4 that ended up causing it.
Austin Moore, the number 91 machine, just coming out of pit road a lap before.
Ashton Lawson, I meant. Apologies if I said Austin Moore.
Well, that's pretty huge right there. Ashton Lawson, one of the last drivers in on points. So that's a pretty big deal for the number 24. We'll have to see how much damage he may have gotten in the number 24 machine. We're actually I think we're getting the replay right here, actually. The number 24 of Ashton Lawson coming out of 3 and 4 in that white and blue truck on the high side. Gets a bump from Baker and tries to correct it. Oh, no. That's the worst thing that could have happened to Lawson. And Lawson, our Season 4 champion, might miss the playoffs, Alex.
Yeah, extremely unfortunate for that driver. One of the worst ways you could wreck here on iRacing is getting stuck to the wall. That's the most damage you could possibly do to a vehicle here on the service. And as you see right here, he gets loose, overcorrects in the outside wall, and when it does that hook like that, you know that truck is destroyed. Ashton Lawson has left the race due to damage, likely had over 30 minutes of damage, and with as much time as there was left in the race, I don't think there was any hope for him to make up any extra points. but Ashton Lawson was 5th, tied for 5th with Austin Moore in the point standings. But it was only about anywhere from 14 to even 10 or so points ahead of the line. This may take Ashton Lawson out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be really difficult for him to get into the playoffs at this point. That number 24, the season 4 champion, Ashton Lawson, came into this season as one of the championship favorites, and looks like he might not even make the playoffs. It's been a very interesting season, to say the least. Of course, Ashton Lawson looks like he might miss the playoffs, might still be able to sneak in. You have a driver like Elliott Henderson, who's outside of the playoffs looking in, a former champion. You have Eric Kep, Gavin Fitzgerald, former drivers that were formerly in the playoffs. Matthew Rodriguez, formerly in the playoffs as well. You have Jake Miller, who's currently 10th in points, who was so dominant last season. So it's been a very different season this season, to say the least, Alex.
Yeah, it's been a unique one for sure. I mean, one season and the next, it was no less than a month or two between the two seasons, and the field has shifted like crazy. We're seeing a bunch of guys that were performing well at the end of last season or were pretty consistent last season still towards the front, but we're also seeing other guys who were in the playoffs, made deep playoff runs and had several wins, just not breaking through this season, especially with some of these newcomers coming in with some good speed. I mean, we've seen Nathan Jump come in and win a race. We've seen Steven Sims consistently be at the front of the field, and we've seen several others like Daniel Nanny and Nicholson only come in on part-time bases and have some of the best speed in the field. And so it's made it difficult for these regulars to go on tears like they had last season, and it's really shifted this field up.
To see how this next restart goes, but a lot of drivers that were at the front are now at the back, like the caution that we had earlier. We have Steven Sims, who's now all the way back to 24th, when he's been running in the top 5, top 3 pretty much all race long in that number 6 machine. You have Matthew Durr, who's now all the way back in 21st. You're gonna have Chris Heller all the way back in 19th. RJ Williams, one of those drivers, getting a wave around in the 20th spot. A lot of drivers that have been running up towards the front most of the race are now in the back of the field, and we'll have to see if they're able to work their way through the field as we're just past halfway.
Now, the one thing I was surprised about, Kyle, is we saw last time when the caution came out that drivers on or just coming off pit lane lost out to drivers out on the racetrack. But this time around, Daniel Nanny, who was in the pit lane at the time of the caution, came out as the leader, which is typically what you expect to happen with that timing. But interesting to see it work out this time around compared to last time, because I thought that Nanny would be in the back where Heller was, because Heller, the caution came out right before he got to the line and he got a penalty for it.
Very interesting circumstances, to say the least, here at Texas Motor Speedway underneath caution number 5, caution number 4, about to take the green flag here with just under 60 laps remaining in the regular season finale here at Texas Motor Speedway. Next week, the playoffs start at Watkins Glen, but who will be competing? The green flag's about to come out, coming off turns 3 and 4 as the pace truck comes down pit lane, and Nanny leads him to the green. A good restart from Nanny, and Henry was ready on that high side. He's right there behind him going into turns 1 and 2.
I don't believe he'll get a big run like Nanny has had on the restarts, because Nanny's just been so good through turns 1 and 2. Zach Henry has really struggled through those 2 corners. This time around, he holds it kind of close as Nanny kind of blocks low to stop any move from coming on. He's going to block him all the way through turns 3 and 4. Might not be able to make the move. The battle's behind with Tyrell Baker and Elliott Henderson. But Baker's going to get loose, has to drive it almost down the pit lane, takes it to the grass, but we might have had another caution somewhere further back in the field.
Yeah, it looks like it's Sam Hoff, the driver of the 17 machine. Looks like he spun it around, pulled out of the grass on the front straightaway. Not exactly sure how he spun it around in that 17 machine. We'll have to take a look at a replay. But Hoff's been fairly clean throughout the day, and Been running around mid-pack, caught up in an incident here late.
I believe it was down through turns 3 and 4. We're going to be seeing it here. Eric Kep dives it up the inside. That puts Hoff kind of in the middle. He backs up a little bit going through the corner. Kind of gets stuck on the outside, and then he runs a little high. Oh, but he got loose on his own and ends up making contact with Matthew Durr there, and he's going to stop it almost fully, but sideways enough on the racetrack that it caused the caution. So there's our caution, ladies and gentlemen. Only a couple cars really directly involved. RJ Williams, who was further up in the field, also partially involved in this incident as well, but the big hit was for Matthew Durr and Samuel Hoff.
It's been a difficult season for Matt Durr, to say the least. Here is the onboard look for Matt Durr, the driver of the number 2 machine in that Gatorade machine. Just had nowhere to go. But as I was saying about Matt Durr, was running up in the top 5, top 10 earlier on in the race. Seemed to have a lot of speed, but this has just been the story of Matt Durr's season, unfortunately. Coming into this race, 23rd in points, 0 top 5s, 0 top 10s. He was in the playoffs 2 seasons ago, and he ran pretty well last season as well. And a very unfortunate season for the number 2, and it's really difficult to see. And Hoff running a decent race, and unfortunate to see him get all that damage from that incident.
Yeah, it seems we saw Durr running up towards the top 10 of the field early on in this event. Just seemed to struggle a lot on the longer runs, not really able to manage the tires nearly as well, and did lose out on strategy, partially explaining why he was further back in the field. And that's just kind of been the story of his season. I could relate to it quite well, but it's just a nature of things. It's kind of the training ground, you could say, where you put yourself up against these guys who are really moving up through the ranks or have been here for a long time and really take control of iRacing and how to handle this stuff, and you gotta basically be put up against the wolves and learn how to race.
Thrown into the deep end of the pool, learn how to swim, and that's what some of these drivers are just trying to do here in the Great Lakes Truck Series season number 6. Who will make it to the playoffs? Next week we hit Watkins Glen and making the left and right hand turns, and I think you're going to be in that event, Alex. Are you looking forward to the Glen at all next week?
Well, I do enjoy my road courses. Had some unfortunate circumstances happen at Montreal earlier this season, but hopefully not going to have any problems happen this time around at Watkins Glen, and might try and take a victory away from these playoff guys. That should be a bit fun.
The opening round, of course, we hit Watkins Glen, we hit Talladega, and we hit Kentucky in the opening round of the playoffs, the round of 12 portion of the playoffs starting up next week. Got to get through here first and see who gets into the playoffs in general. Caution number 5, a little over 50 laps remaining. Nanny leading the field, most likely will decide on the inside lane. Henry on his high side, the number 25 of Barkuski will restart third, and Elliot Henderson right back up here, back up into the 4th spot. A driver to watch on this restart to maybe get a little bit aggressive, because right now I think he's still probably on the outside looking in, even by points.
Well, you thought that Nanny was going to take the inside. He's going to take the outside for this restart. Interesting call there for that driver. I'm very interested to see how this works out for him, as he's going to try and help out Elliot Henderson get a better start, as well as Hunter Madalinas, who, mind you, he's doing it again where early to the mid portion of the race, we don't really talk about him very much. He's not running very well, but by the end of the race, he somehow finds his way into the top 10, top 5, reason being why he's our points leader.
Madalinas up here for the first time today, up to that 6th position. I have to see what he maybe does on this restart. He's the one driver that's locked in on points coming into this race. Everybody else is either locked in on a win or they're not locked in at all. I have to see what he maybe does on this restart. And Shane Neiswanger up here for the first time today, up here in the top 5. Coming through turns 3 and 4 after caution number 5. They're going to go green flag racing with 52 laps to go at Texas. Do we go green the rest of the way? Do we see one more round of green flag stops? The iRacing pace truck coming out of turn 4, going to pull down pit road once again. And Nanny going to lead him to the restart on that high side. Is Henry able to get a good restart? Is Henderson able to keep up with Nanny? And the green flag is in the air for Nanny. And Nanny with a phenomenal restart. Henderson wasn't ready at all. He's going to fall way back. Looks like he's going to fall back to the 4th spot here. And Madalenas all over his bumper going into 1 and 2.
I think that had to have been the biggest jump for a leader this entire race. Almost nobody was prepared for that restart right there. And so that pretty much single files out the top 4 almost immediately. Battle's going to try and develop for 5th, but nothing's going to really come out of it as Shane Nicewanger kind of gets blocked off there from Madalenas. But coming out of turn 4, Nicewanger is going to pull it to the inside, gets up the inside of Madalenas for the 5th position. This could be a good spot for Nicewanger as he's kind of been in the back half of the top 10 or just outside the top 10, but he finds his way now into the 5th position for the first time this race.
And Nicewanger able to move himself up to 5th and then number 49. Here comes Baker to the inside. You saw it on your screen, making that aggressive move to the inside of Fitzgerald. Going into 3 wide, almost
3 wide. 3 wide.
Great.
Oh my God.
Great save from Fitzgerald. Got very loose out of the corner, able to keep it straight and hang on to his spot. Madalena still on his high side, and Fitzgerald going to try to clear him out of turns 1 and 2 as Baker slips up coming out of 2. He's going to throw the block on Fitzgerald coming out of turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, Baker we've seen be very aggressive this race. He's had some good speed, but at the same time has been very tight, close corners, almost Chastain-esque in a sense, where just the aggression is at maximum. But it's been working out for him so far this race. But for the lead, Henry up the inside of Daniel Nanny. He almost gets it, but once again, the struggles for Zachary Henry through turns 1 and 2 loses him the spot. But he's got speed. Down into turn 3, gets blocked off. And man, this battle for the top spot is tight.
Nanny holding on to the lead for now, but Henry putting all the pressure on with his teammate Brandon Barkuski right in behind. Here comes Elliot Henderson in the 37 machine. Does he get up there and make some stuff happen here late? He is trying to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, this could be crucial for him as well. Also crucial for Shane Nicewanger. He's far back in the points, but it's not impossible to say that he could make it into the top 20. That if he manages to get a victory here, he could find himself in the playoffs. So he's a bit far out, but it's not totally out of the question for him.
It's not out of the question for Nicewanger at all. We know he's a quality driver. He's definitely had a very difficult season in the number 49 machine, but is usually very competitive, especially at a track here like Texas. I can definitely see him getting the job done and ending up in victory lane here tonight. Question is he able to do it here? Little under 50 laps remain. Henry continues to put the pressure on Nanny for the race lead.
And the pressure is high. This is the most pressure on the back bumper that Nanny's felt this entire race. Zachary Henry's unrelenting as he takes it to the inside once again. Like I was talking about earlier this race, Nanny takes that wide entry, allows Henry to get up the inside. This time, Henry with a much better exit. But Nanny's trying to pinch him a little bit down the back straightaway, but he's got help from his teammate Barkuski behind. That's going to force Nanny on the outside, make him really struggle through 3 and 4. Lap car gets out of the way, thankfully for these leaders. And Henry might get the lead here, but now Nanny's got some help from Elliot Henderson on the outside. Can Henry clear him through turns 1 and 2? Looks like he'll be able to. Maybe. Oh, but Nanny pulls it back out of turn 2. It's not over yet.
A phenomenal set of turns right there. Turn 1 and 2 from the number 30 of Daniel Nanny was almost perfect. Gets right back to the door of the number 12 of Henry, and they're racing very hard in 3 and 4. Almost make contact in the center of the corner. The number 12 of Henry still not quite clear of Nanny. Can he clear him going into turns 1 and 2 here?
It's just Zach Henry has such a good entry. This time he's fully clear. He's going to pull up in front of Nanny. Is he going to try and help his teammate out a little bit? Yes, he will. Give him a little bit of draft on the back straightaway. He's got to make sure Nanny can't get back to his outside here. He's going to allow Barkuski to try and pull it up the inside. Henderson has backed out of helping Nanny. He's going to try and get the spot for himself if he can. try and see if he could pull it up the inside, see if he has the run down here in a turn 1. Barkowski might get it clear here. Oh, but he's got to be careful because they almost went 3 wide, but Nanny's going to slot in, or will he take it to the outside again? Yes, he will. That turn 2 for Daniel Nanny is fantastic.
Nanny just has so much speed in the center, on the center off in turns 1 and 2. And he gets right back to the high side of Barkowski. Barkowski fighting hard on the inside. Henry jumps up to the high side to maybe block in the number 30 of Nanny, as Nanny's trying to find speed up there, and Henderson's now giving him a push. And Nicewanger sends it into 1 and 2 underneath the 37 of Henderson, and somehow he makes it stick.
Oh, but the crossover for the second spot from Daniel Nanny, outside to inside, gets underneath Barkowski. This is a big move for him right here. 2 wide, 2 rows deep. Nanny's going to end up getting the spot as Barkowski backs out of it. Can Nicewanger get the spot on Henderson? This could be crucial for his race as well. We might get some shorter runs here at the end due to the timing of the caution. But these two going at it for the 4th position.
And here comes Baker as well. Tyrell Baker is entering the picture here. The top 5 might have some company from that 6th place driver of Baker. Here momentarily, Henry still holds the lead, but Nicewanger and Henderson going back and forth for that 4th spot as Henderson crosses over to the inside. He's going to try to clear him coming out of 4.
And left the door open a little bit out of turn 2.
Contact between the leaders. Nanny gets to the inside, and Henry and him almost make contact at the start-finish line. They keep it straight. The number 12 of Henry on the high side, Nanny on the inside. These two are fighting hard for a victory.
Nanny's got the spot at the inside, but Henry, oh, contact down the back straightaway between our 2 leaders. It's going to allow Henry to hold the spot, but now that slots Barkowski into trying to take advantage. He's to the outside. Henry's going to help him down the front straightaway. They got to watch out, though. Henderson's got a big run coming down the front straight. These drivers have been going at it. Nanny's still got the advantage up the inside. Can Barkowski take the lead on the outside? Oh, not enough of a run out of turn 2. That's going to allow Nanny to come right back at him.
Daniel Nanny is relentless on that inside at the moment. Nanny trying to get past Barkowski, trying to get back to the race lead in the number 30 machine. He has now Henderson right on his bumper coming out of 3 and 4. Can Nanny clear Barkowski down the front straightaway? It looks like he will going into turns 1 and 2 as he tries to cut him off going into the corner.
We've seen Nanny have the best long run speed. Oh, very tight between the 37 and 25. But we've seen Nanny have the best long run speed of the entire field. But now that he's lost the track position at the front of the field, can he hold it off? Barkowski with a big block on Henderson down the back straightaway. Slots him into 3rd. Henderson wants to get into this fight as well. He wants these leaders to start battling, because if they start battling, it's going to allow Henderson to get right into it.
And Brittle has to go through the grass, not given very much space there on the racetrack, trying to give as much space as he can to the leaders. Gets into the grass, luckily able to keep it straight and not wreck in front of any of our lead lap cars. That number 10 machine on the inside with a lot of damage. Henry still holding the race lead. Nanny's right there at this point, though. He's driven right back to his bumper. He's going to be all over his bumper coming off 3 and 4.
And Nanny's been really good through turns 3 and 4. This entire race has been good through turns 2, but where he loses out in is turn 1. He's going to take it wide into turn 1. That's going to allow him a big run out of turn 2. Can he do the crossover? He's got a run coming off. He's going to end up taking it to the outside as Henry gives it to him. No, he'll not. He'll slot back to the bottom. Then the battle's behind for the 3rd spot. But contact, bump and run for Daniel Nanny. Oh, but Henderson gets turned as he tries to shoot the gap. Tyrell Baker. Oh, Matthew Rodriguez as well. 3-car pile up out of turn 4.
Oh, man, a little bump and run at Texas. A very interesting move for the number 30 of Nanny, and really stacked up those cars there, and that's going to hurt Henderson. That might be it for Henderson's chances at a championship.
All right, well, this is an interesting spot as it's going to be very tight on fuel for these drivers if this goes green to the end. Now, we've seen cautions come out so far for various different things tonight. The only green flag run we've had was the very first run that went all the way through until the caution came out in the middle of the pit cycle. but it's right on the money to making it on fuel. You have to save a good amount if this goes green, and this could cause the racing to calm down just a little bit, which could cause our green flag run.
And Henderson, you saw it there on your screen. Henderson was not at all happy with Barkuski, and it looked like Barkuski might have gotten into Henderson, but I think it was overall just a reaction of what happened with Henry, and not too much of what could have been done there. We'll see who's able to get out of pit road first here, though. This could decide who wins this race. Who gets out of pit road first could potentially end up in victory lane because of this. And here comes the race off pit road. It's going to be close between Henry and Nanny. I think it was Nanny. That was really close.
It looks like it was Daniel Nanny as he takes the spot for the lead. But man, Henry had a really good stop there. I almost thought for a second it might have been Barkuski, but just a little bit slow out of the box. But those two with a great duel through the pit lane. Pit crew was a little faster on Henry, just not fast enough.
We're going to take a replay here at our incident here for caution number 6 involving our race leaders. Zach Henry was leading the race and it looked like Nanny gave him a little bump and they stacked up behind him here. Here you see them coming into turns 1 and 2. Henry riding that inside and Nanny gives him a bump right there. Then here you see it. And yeah, I don't see why Henderson's upset with Barkuski. Barkuski's left sides were literally on the white line. Not too much of what could have been done right there.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it was on Elliott in that case. He was trying to shoot the gap, see if he could take a 3 and find himself in the second spot, but just ran out of room, kind of pinched Barkuski too far down the track, and kind of got himself turned around there. Sadly, not enough room for Elliott Henderson to make the move of the race, but it was a definitely proud attempt right there.
Henderson with that damage getting repaired on pit road has fallen back to the 21st spot now, so it's going to be nearly impossible at this point for him to end up making the playoffs in the number 37. If he wants to make the playoffs, he's going to need a lot of help. That was the onboard look of Henderson, by the way, right there. But he's going to need a lot of help if he wants to compete for a 4th championship.
Alright, so all of our leaders pit a little bit before lap 102, lap or 2 before. So they're able to save a bit of fuel under caution, but it's going to be very tight. The farthest we saw these leaders go was 32 laps, with around about the same amount of caution laps. We had 2 to start the race. We're going to have about 3 or 4 before the restart occurs. So these guys might end up just running out of fuel at the line, but it'll be very tight if this goes green.
Some good racing here at the end, potentially, to see who will end up making the playoffs, who will end up stealing a victory, and sounds like we might even get a little bit of strategy thrown in there when it comes to fuel saving. Who can make it to the finish? Here you see the number 16 right here of, I think that's Rod Fosnow, and the number 16 machine currently out in front of the field, and you can get a wave around.
No, Fosnow is our leader, actually, as a matter of fact, Kyle. I'm not sure if he took it to the pit lane, because he came out ahead of all the leaders, and I don't believe we saw anybody jump the leaders in the pit lane. I believe he may have just decided to stay out, and yeah. I'm not really sure why, because he's going to really put himself in a bad position fuel-wise. It could be maybe a question of tires. I mean, these drivers started out with about 5 sets. We're on caution number 6, but mind you, a lot of these leaders didn't take tires during some of the earlier stop cautions that we had around lap 40-ish, so I believe everybody had a set of tires left over. So, frankly, I'm not really sure what the call here is for the 16.
I think the call here is to make a very exciting restart for us here in the booth. I think that's what the call is here, Alex. Rod Fosnow leading the field here on the upcoming restart. Daniel Nanny will be on his inside. I'm watching for Fosnow maybe to possibly spin his tires. Needs to have a decent restart. I think this is the longest somebody has gone on a set of tires and has had to lead the field on a restart. Here we come to the green flag. Fosnow on that high side, and that FedEx machine gets a decent restart. But Nanny right there on the inside. Fosnow, I think he got into the wall. right there.
I mean, it's kind of expected when you're on tires that old. It's very easy to spin the tires on the restart, but that allows Daniel Nanny to get an easy start to the lead, and he's going to be plummeting through the order as, oh, big crash in the back.
No caution. Sims is now stopped on the back straightaway. We should definitely see a caution. No caution.
I can't believe it. He must have been outside of the detection zone. The officials must have missed the call. The inside wall must have blocked off that truck, but they didn't see it. We're still under green here as Daniel Nanny leads the field. Zach Henry and Brendan Murkowski second and third, with Madalinas finding himself in the fourth position with the battle for fifth.
Nanny in the lead, Henry in second, Barkowski in third. Those have been the three strongest trucks all race long, and points leader Hunter Madalinas, who's been running outside the top 10 a good amount of the day, has came up here late. This is why we call him the closer, up here to the fourth spot.
I think it may be a slight disadvantage here to be the leader. Mind you, the question has been fuel. It's going to be very, very tight. As the leader, you're burning the most fuel. We may be at 1.5 miles, but there's still a good amount of draft. We're dealing with these trucks here on the surface. There's some good draft that comes out from these guys. Why we're seeing such big runs into the corners. That's going to provide a massive advantage to Henry, Barkowski, and everybody behind, as they don't have to go full throttle down the straightaways to save gas.
There's Chris Heller in the number 11. He's going to try to get underneath Madalinas. Gives him in the
corner.
My God. Look, he gave him a little bit of a touch. I'm not quite sure. But if he gets up there, that's 3 25-11 drivers in the top 4. And that's going to make it really difficult for Nanny to hold off all 3 of these 25-11 drivers unless they battle themselves like they are right now.
Well, Barkowski had a bit of a run out of turn 2, documenting the struggles of Henry out of turn 2 this entire race. Been his weakest part of the racetrack. Allows Barkowski to not only get second, but try and battle for the lead as he gets up the inside of Daniel Nanny. Won't have a big enough run out of turn 2, but it was a spirited effort right there as he got a massive run into turn 1. Allows also Heller up the inside of Henry out of turn 2 as well. He's going to try and take the spot through turns 3 and 4. Daniel Nanny's not got this race secured now that he's in the lead. We've seen his struggles more on the shorter run. He pulls away in the long run. But, I mean, these guys are right on top of him. You never know what could happen.
I think this is the farthest Henry's been back all day, excluding pit stops, back to that 4th spot. But the battle's on right behind him. Nice Swanger on the inside, Madalinas on the high side. Henry jumps down to the inside, looking to hold on to that 4th spot for now, and Heller's driving back down the top 2. Could be a 3-way battle for the win here with 25 laps remaining.
Barkowski's going to try and dive it low in a turn 1 like he's been doing, but this time he's got better track position. Can he hold it out of turn 2? Loses it in the center, is going to lose a little bit off. He's on the left recorder panel. Can he get the run? Heller's going to help him out down the back straight. This is going to be the big help. Oh, but almost contact between the two of them. Barkowski backs out of it, not trying to get vengeance for his teammate who got moved out of the way earlier in this race. And Daniel Nanny's just going to barely retain the lead.
Like I said, coming into this race, Barkowski isn't quite locked in. Nanny was definitely not clear going into 3 and 4, and Barkowski thought more playoffs and points and backed off there. Didn't want to get into an incident here late.
Well, we got to see what ends up occurring here. We saw Heller provide big help. Nanny gets on the apron a little bit. That's going to hurt his corner exit speed. Barkowski's on the back bumper. Going to push him a little bit down the front straight. He's going to take it to the outside, take it low. Is he going to dive in turn 1? Yes, he will. All the struggles for Nanny. Can he pull the slide job? Not enough. He's going to hold it on the bottom, but he's got a much bigger run this time around. Daniel Nanny really struggled out of turn 4. That hurt his turn 1. He's going to get a bit of help from Heller. He's definitely not clear this time by. No pinching down this time. Barkowski up the inside. Big run through turns 3 and 4. He's got the lead coming out of 4, but the run for Nanny. Big battle for the win.
Barkowski might be able to clear him into 1 and 2 this time by. He's going to really send it in there. He's going to clear him. Can he jump up in front of him? And Nanny cuts off his teammate Heller. Heller has to get on the brakes.
Barkowski's going to block it very low. Nanny's going to almost take it to the apron, but gets blocked. Nothing he could do about that one. Henry's going to take the 3rd spot away from his teammate, trying to make his way back up through the field. And this could spell trouble for Daniel Nanny, as Zachary Henry has a fresh memory of what just happened to him not that long ago. He's going to be coming up to Daniel Nanny with his teammate leading. He's in a bit of a 25-11 sandwich right now.
Henry needs to get to the back bumper of Nanny. I feel like he needs to be a good teammate to Barkuski. Barkuski trying to snag another win for 25-11. Henry has a win. Heller has a win. Nicholson has multiple wins. Barkuski trying to snag a win here for 25-11. Can Henry get up there to Nanny and maybe hold him back a little bit and maybe let Barkuski pull away?
Well, right now Barkuski's putting a bit of a gap on, and Nanny has to worry every time down into turn 1. That's where he's been really getting caught off guard. It's really been hurting his corner exit as he takes a wide entry, tries to cut it off down low, but if somebody's there, he can't do that, and that's where he's been losing spots.
Trying to just maintain this gap for now. Everyone kind of running similar lap times. Everybody running within around a 1/10 of one another at the moment. Niswanger up in the 5th spot now. You see him back there in that white machine, but Nathan Jump, he's been driving up through the field. He's back up to the 7th position. Maybe a driver we'll have to think about before this race is over and done with.
It's swirly back there with RJ Williams and Aaron Kev Fugly. Those drivers going at it a bit further back, but this is where this main battle is up here. The top 4 drivers all stacked up in a line. We're getting the view here from, I believe this is the back bumper of front camera of Zach Henry looking at the back bumper of Daniel Nanny. Might be a useful camera later on in this race down into turn 3, perhaps, question mark?
It just might be, Alex. It just might be. Henry right there in that 3rd spot, putting the pressure on Nanny. Can he get to the inside of Nanny, possibly going into 1 and 2? He's going to have a decent run out of 3 and 4, and we've seen Henry being able to send it to the inside pretty much better than anybody else here today, and he's going to send it to the inside. Oh, Nanny!
Oh, boy! Oh, boy, Kyle, that was tight down in a turn 1. Barkuski took it a bit wide, and both Nanny and Henry wanted to go low, but none of them could really complete that one. Nearly contact between our 2nd and 3rd place drivers.
Nanny is all over Barkuski at this point. He might send it to the inside in 1 and 2, or will he go to the high side? He's trying to get to the quarter panel of Barkuski on the high side down the front straightaway. Nanny's been very strong on that high side, stronger than probably anybody else on the higher portion of the racetrack today. He's going to get a great run out of 2. Barkuski gets loose, blocks the inside, and Nanny's now going to be right door to door with them going into 3 and 4.
He may have had the advantage out of turn 2, but the bottom lane in 3 and 4 is so much stronger. But with Barkuski lighting up those rear tires, it could help Nanny out, and it looks like it will. He's got the run down the front straightaway, but he is absolutely going to get zero help from Zachary Henry behind. Allow Barkuski to dive in through. Henry's going to dive it up the inside. Oh, once again, very tight between those 2 drivers. Nanny's being very aggressive with his truck positioning. He's going to try and dive it all the way low. He takes it to the apron. Contact, but they don't spin around. Daniel Nanny is on peak aggression right now.
And Nanny is being very aggressive in the number 30 machine. It's a miracle how he hasn't spun himself or somebody else at this point, being very aggressive in that number 30 machine. Barkuski looking for a win, and there it is!
Oh, there it is! Oh, no.
It looked like Nanny wrecked himself off the nose of the number 12 of Henry as they're both going into the corner. You saw a similar situation around 2 or 3 laps ago when they almost went 3 wide into the corner. And there it is going into 1 and 2. A lot of damage to that 30 machine.
Well, we've seen that exact situation happen, except this time it did not work out for Daniel Nanny, trying to dive it low with a truck underneath. And, I suppose in a weird sense, Henry got payback without it being his fault. So the 25-11 trio, 1, 2, 3 after that, taking control of this event.
25-11 leading the field here late. We're going to try to get you a replay here on the incident between Daniel Nanny and Zachary Henry going into 1 and 2. We saw a similar situation a few laps ago, but Henry backed off. This time he did not. Here you see it, and it's just they're just so tight going into the corner. No space going into the corner right there, and I couldn't tell if it kind of just looked like they both kind of held their lines, and Nanny maybe came down a little bit, taking that entry into the corner, but just very close racing between those drivers as the leaders are coming down pit road here.
It looks like these leaders have at least one more tire set left. This would be the time to use it, as we're again seeing that camera that I mentioned might have been a little bit useful, though I guess I got the corner wrong on where it would be useful. But you know, as we're looking out here on the racetrack, see a few drivers stay out. Might be some guys who don't have any tires left over, but if you have tires left, this is the perfect time to use it, as there's really nothing left to save at this point. You pretty much are just gonna take your tires as you have it with a pretty much 10 lap or less sprint to the finish. You're not saving any tires either. It's gonna be full bore and it's gonna be full action.
I saw a couple of drivers stay out there. Like Aiden DuPont had stayed out, Gavin Fitzgerald, Elliot Henderson, and Jake Miller. I find that pretty interesting. Jake Miller has a decent amount of damage, but he might also be staying out there for his teammate Henderson. He also has a decent amount of damage, but Henderson trying his best to get into the playoffs, whether it be by points or possibly with the victory. And I think Jake here is going to do whatever he can to help his teammate in the number 37 out.
Well, I also believe Miller had taken tires on one of the earlier cautions when the front half of the field had not, so I'm not sure if he has tires left over. I mean, if he comes down the pit lane here, which it's indicating he might be trying to do, then I suppose he does, but is he going to take the left-hand turn? We're seeing a few guys here on the apron. Not sure if they're going to take the hard left-hand turn. No, they're going to stay out on track. All right. I didn't think he had a set of tires left over. They were trying to trick us here in the booth.
They're going to restart this race with just under 10 laps remaining here, so this might not be the worst call here. Stay out front on the older tires, whether they have another set of tires or not. I think this is a good call, because a driver like Henderson, he kind of doesn't have any more opportunities to get to victory lane, and this might be his last hurrah, his last chance to really get to victory lane and lock himself up with the playoff spot. Same thing with the driver like Gavin Fitzgerald, who's surprisingly not up there in the playoffs as well, who had a very strong season last season and the season before. So some drivers trying to maybe get into the playoffs here with a good performance and maybe get to victory lane.
Yeah, but the only thing with it here, Kyle, is this is a hurrah that is essentially just throwing a dart blindfolded at a haystack and trying to hit the needle with it. I mean, the drivers on fresh tires are right behind him. He's going to have almost no room to negotiate this restart. 20 lap old tires, they fell off almost a second on pace there at the end. I'm not sure if this is going to work out here, Kyle.
I feel like it is still their best opportunity, though, because you have to keep in mind also the pending strategies. You have the drivers on the old tires, you have the drivers on the new tires, plus it's under 10 laps remaining. Anything could happen. We've seen big accidents at the front of these fields before. Anything is possible.
Well, that's essentially what he's just banking on, is these restarts going horrendously wrong for the field, and he just manages to be the one who benefits from it. But even on the restart here, he might struggle to get going. We could see Barkuski take it 3 wide up the inside. We may even see 4 wide with him and Henry splitting the field here, trying to take spots on both the inside and outside, because these old tires are going to be very, very slow through turns 1 and 2.
Going to restart this race with 9 laps to go at Texas Motor Speedway. 9 laps remaining in the regular season. Will we make it the rest of the way green? Will we possibly go to overtime and get a green-white checkered? We'll have to see. Aiden DuPont is going to lead him down to the green flag in the 00 machine on the inside. Gavin Fitzgerald on the high side in the number 14. Behind the 00, you have the 37 of Elliot Henderson. On the high side of him in row number 2, you have the number 4 of Jake Miller. Those are the 4 drivers on old tires. The first 2 on new tires is the number 25 of Barkuski, and on his high side, the number 12 of Henry. Here they come off turns 3 and 4 after caution number 7. 9 laps to go. The iRacing pace truck is going to pull down pit road once again, and DuPont is going to lead him to the green flag here late. Watch for a possible spin of the tires. Green flag is out, and Fitzgerald spins the tires on the high side. He's going to hold up Miller, and that's going to open up the door for Barkuski, and Henry's going to lose some spots going into 1 and 2 because he's stuck on that high side. He's going to lose at least 3 or 4 spots.
Oh, but RJ Williams gets loose and hooks the outside wall through turns 1 and 2. Oh my goodness, Kyle. What a disaster for a driver running so well tonight. He has to make it in on points. He does not have a victory. He's currently 7th in points. He was one of the guys right on the bubble. This may cost him his playoff hopes.
And since he's been running a really strong race, I know he was right behind him in the points. He's been running a really strong race, currently running in the 11th spot. But that restart, I don't think could have turned out any better or more perfect for Elliott Henderson, able to dive to the inside, take the lead right before the caution came out. Going to take a look at the incident here with RJ Williams going through turns 1 and 2. Looks like he's just reacting to what's going on in front of him, then just overcorrects. And yeah, same thing happened to Lawson earlier. The wall just kind of grabs your nose and tears it up, rips your engine right out of your car pretty much.
Yeah, see here, he kind of just weirdly got loose right in the center of 1 and 2, and then in the same situation, overcorrected into the outside wall. And that truck just hooked full speed into the turn 2 wall, and he's already left the field. He's out of the race. He's off the racetrack. He's on the plane home already. That driver is out of this event.
This makes it real interesting now because we're gonna have under 5 laps remaining. I'm not exactly sure how many laps to go we're gonna end up having when we get this next restart. There you see Shiflett wrecking on the inside in the number 28. But Henderson now leads the field. He's going to have DuPont on his high side and Barkuski on the fresh tires right behind him. Henderson, if he's able to get off to a good enough restart here, he might be able to gap Barkuski. And if Barkuski starts to battle with Madalinas, Heller, and those guys, and they start to get 3 wide, 2 wide back there, who knows what could happen. Henderson has put himself in a position where he could possibly win this race.
I would actually argue taking the high side in this instance, because if you line up on the bottom, you put Barkuski, one of the fastest cars in this event, behind you, and he's likely to easily pass DuPont. But if you take the outside, you put Madalinas, that despite his good positioning tonight, just seems to have not been able to tag on to the top 4 spots and really put himself in position to win the race, other than his good track position. You might hold up Barkuski a little bit as you force those two to start battling if he could clear DuPont on the outside, which he's likely to do on newer tires.
That's a very good point there, Alex. And honestly, I could see that as a scenario because you also have to keep in mind Henderson and Madalinas are teammates. So Henderson might help Madalinas to get up there. And if Henderson doesn't win this race, I think he wouldn't mind Madalinas to be the one that goes to victory lane looking for his first victory on the season.
I believe that is the line where they choose where they're going, unless everybody's just lining up because why not? But it seems the lights are still on, so I think we still got another lap to go around here. These drivers are just pre-anticipating getting rid of for the restart. They're antsy. It's gonna be only a few laps here to the finish. I believe it'll be about 3-4 laps to go once we go green. So not a lot of time for these drivers to negotiate track position, but for these guys on older tires, they're pretty much just going to be hoping for another caution, because if this goes green for even a full lap, they're going to be at a massive disadvantage.
Let's see how this restart goes and where Henderson ends up deciding where he wants to go here on caution number 8. Henderson has a chance here at getting himself into the playoffs. It's going to be very difficult and unlikely for him to get to victory lane, but there is a chance. You have Ada DuPont. They're in the 2nd spot. Brandon Barkuski, the first driver on fresh tires, and the number 25 machine in 3rd. You have Hunter Madalinas running in that 4th spot in the number 9 machine, your points leader coming into the event. Then you have Gavin Fitzgerald back there in the 14 machine. He's had a pretty decent run, but he's also on old tires, just like Henderson and DuPont. Then you have Heller, Miller, Henry, Niswanger, and Jump rounding out your top 10 here today. Who will end up in victory lane? Going to see if the lights go out on the pace truck. as Henderson looks like he's going to decide on the high side as the lights go out, exactly as you said, Alex. So these drivers are going to restart with 4 laps remaining. I think that's a little too many laps for Henderson, and someone like Henderson or DuPont is going to probably be hoping on another quick caution here.
I mean, this is, I believe, the best chance that Henderson has of getting the win. Like you said, Madalinas is the teammate here. I had almost forgotten about that factor, because while there's a here and there on people as NASCAR fans liking kind of team orders and helping people out who probably might not have won otherwise, I think in this instance, Madalinas is locked into the playoffs. He's secured in. Why not get your teammate in there if you can? But at the same time, if Henderson is slow enough on those old tires and Madalinas can't hold off Barkowski, he might just have to go to the victory just to secure his team a victory.
We'll have to see what Madalinas decides and how Henderson is able to do on this upcoming restart, potentially the final restart of the race. 4 laps to go at Texas Motor Speedway as the iRacing pace truck is going to pull down pit road. Once again, Henderson going to lead him to the green. Watch the tire spin on the inside potentially with Aiden DuPont. Green flag is in the air. DuPont doesn't get off to the greatest restart, but Barkowski immediately jumps to the high side and will pass DuPont coming past the start-finish line. And DuPont...
Oh, no! Oh, DuPont with a big hit. He's going to come up the track. Caution is out again with Madalinas up to second.
And that's exactly what Henderson wanted. The driver of the 37 still in the race lead. He is still in the running for this win.
And I was questioning the strategy a little bit. I personally would have tried to call for a 2 tire, see if I could get the track position that way, but with the wrecks that have been happening on these restarts, so far it's working out for Elliott Henderson. And while you hate to have it happen as a race fan, for this driver right here, he would love to see these just have 3 more cautions and run out the green-white checkers, because so far it's working out for him, and if he can get the victory, he'll find his way into the playoffs.
We have gotten the reminder that there is a little over 10 minutes left in the timed. It's also timed at 1 hour and 55 minutes, and there's around 10 minutes left on that clock. So if we get a couple of late race cautions here on the green-white checkered, we could possibly be looking at a timed finish here. There you saw the incident, by the way, with Aiden DuPont. It looks like he just tried to make room for those drivers on the fresh tires and got 2 left sides just barely in the grass. Like they were maybe 1 or 2 inches into that grass, and it just whipped him right around. You're going to see it one more time here. He gets those left sides just barely in the grass and spins him right into the inside wall, and such a hard impact. He bounced right back onto the racetrack, which was the cause of the caution here.
Yeah, I mean, he's just on older tires. I mean, he, slipped it up a little bit on the restart, hence why, Madalinas was able to pull away so much. He still looked like he was struggling on throttle right as he hit the grass, and that was probably what ultimately caused him to go around right there, is he just didn't have the grip in the tires to go across the grass and recover. We see guys struggle on new tires to touch the grass and not end up wrecking. So it's not a surprise that on old tires he did it and ended up spinning.
So we have a max of 3 attempts at a green-white checkered, and no better time to have this overtime finish than at Texas Motor Speedway in the final race of the regular season. This is epic. This is epic.
Epic indeed, Kyle. That is a way to put it. But alright, well, let's see what ends up occurring over here. We got Elliott Henderson leading. He's on old tires, about 20 laps older under green flag than his competitors behind him. He's so far been able to negotiate restarts well enough on those old tires, been able to launch, got his teammate and Hunter Madalinas lining up alongside him. Now the question is going to be, how does he negotiate this restart? Last time he had somebody else on older tires almost blocking off some of his closest competitors from getting to his back bumper and passing him. Now, the only people around him are on new tires, and it's Madalenas' teammate in the two 2511 cars who, at the end of this race here, have shown themselves to be the fastest ones on the racetrack. So this is going to be a difficult restart for Elliot Henderson to negotiate, and could be the difference between him making the playoffs and him seething for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I think the hope here for Henderson would be to get 3 quick cautions, and that'll probably be it. 'Cause it looks like he's able to get through 1 and 2 okay, and most likely would still have the race lead if they got down into 3 and 4. But if they made it to that white flag lap, I just see it as nearly impossible to hold off the number 9 and the number 25, who are on much fresher tires.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rough one for sure, but I think there's a good possibility that he does it. I think the biggest thing for Elliot here is gonna be making sure his teammate is the one slotted into second, and I think the only way he could really secure that is taking the top side. We've seen the bottom be so much stronger on these restarts for that second row that almost every time the truck starting in second is not able to slot into second off of turn 2. So best case scenario for Elliot is to take the high side, which it looks like he's going to be doing, and get a good enough restart to slot ahead of his teammate and force the battle between Heller and Barkuski through turns 1 and 2 and try and slow him down as much as possible.
I have to see how it works out for these two E95 drivers of Henderson and Hunter Madalenas. The lights are out on the pace truck. Little over half a lap from going green flag racing. Once again, this is the first of a maximum 3 attempts at a green-white checkered here at Texas Motor Speedway. You have to keep in mind with the time and the timed part of the event, it looks like 7 minutes. 7 minutes left. So we might not even be able to make it to the finish if we get a couple of cautions here. We'll have to see how this works out. Here they come through turns 3 and 4. Henderson leading the field. Madalenas on his inside. Restarting behind on the number 37 is the number 11 of Chris Heller. Then restarting right behind Madalenas on the inside is the number 25 of Brandon Barkuski. Who can make it to victory lane in the final race of the regular season? Here comes the iRacing pace truck down pit road once again here after caution number 9. Henderson's going to lead him to the green flag here coming off turns 3 and 4 as they enter the restart zone. Green flag is in the air for Henderson. Madalenas, can he get up in front of Heller? Maybe block for his teammate a little bit. He is not able to get in front of Heller.
Oh, contact! Oh, Madalenas into the outside wall. Disaster for the number 9 car. Luckily, our points leader locked into the playoffs, but disaster for Elliot here is now he's fed to the wolves with the 2511 cars behind him.
Yeah, he's fed. He was fed to the wolves there. But oh my gosh, Elliot Henderson still is going to have the race lead here. Wasn't able to quite block Barkuski, but he did the next best thing, and that was to bring out a caution flag. And Henderson still has the race lead. Going to take a look at this replay here. Going to take a look at the restart. Very close racing between Barkuski and Heller there. Madalenas tries to throw the block on Barkuski, but he just wasn't quite clear. And wrecks in a very hard hit from the number 28 of Shiflett, who's been through the ringer today.
Just a disaster there at the front of the field. Surprised there were not more drivers involved in that incident. That was just a matter of tight racing and aggressive racing here at the end of the race. There's going to be no lift and no give as well, as we see the onboard of the 28. Oh, massive hit there for that driver. He's just going to try and limp this truck to the finish if he can, but just a disaster here. So we're going to look at the onboard here at the restart with the 25 car Barkuski and see just exactly what he saw from his point of view.
Here we are going to take a look at Brandon Barkuski's onboard camera. Here he is right behind Madalenas. He almost makes contact with his teammate Heller right there. Gets to the inside of Madalenas, and Madalenas just indecisive on if he wants to go to that high side or the inside. And when he finally decides to come to that bottom side, going into the corner. It's too late, and Barkuski's nose is there.
It just seemed like a matter of Madalena's not going all the way far down enough, but at the same time, Barkuski's just not lifting for it as well. You know, from both sides, it could have possibly been avoided for that incident, but for both sides as well, that's the only chance that they really had. If Barkuski gets blocked off by Madalenas, it's likely that either him or Henderson are going to end up winning this race, but if Barkuski gets to the inside of Madalenas, he puts himself in a really good position to win the race. So for both of those drivers, it was the best move that they could make. It just wasn't executed in the perfect way for either of them.
Very interesting here. Because of all these quick cautions, Fitzgerald and Miller have been able to stay where they're at as well, running in that 5th and 6th position. So Henderson has a teammate, but he's behind these 3 25-11 drivers who are not going to show the number 37 any mercy on this upcoming restart if they're able to battle it out for the win. And see if the lights go out on the pace truck this time by. They will not. Probably 2 to go this time.
Yeah, but it's likely on this restart here that Elliot Henderson just has to relegate and run on the bottom lane this time. He can't risk having Heller up the inside of him for this restart, as on those newer tires, he'll have a better launch. And last time he had his teammate who might have given him a little bit of leeway on that restart, but there's going to be no leeway from his opponent in that 11 truck. So he's pretty much just got to take the restart and hope that 2nd and 3rd place start battling. And pretty much hope that a caution comes out here, because one more caution will end the race. We may be only on the 2nd of 3 green-white checkers, but due to time, the race will likely end under caution if we get another one here within the next lap. But what the rest of the field's going to be hoping for is that we make it to the white flag under green, because Elliot's going to be a sitting duck otherwise.
Henderson might be able to luck himself into the playoffs here. Can he do it? Pace truck is coming to most likely the 1 to go here. Her 2nd attempt at a green-white checkered. Like you said, Alex, if the caution comes out here, most likely the race will end because of time. Here they come to the start-finish line to get the 1 to go, and it looks like Henderson is going to take the inside lane this time without his teammate Madalenas at this point. He needs to pick what's best for him, and he has no one to defend him. So that inside lane is probably the best lane for him to pick.
All right, well, let's see how this ends up working out. Elliot Henderson lining up on the bottom, and a 25-11, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th here on the restart. Jake Miller has found his way into the 6th position. You see him right there giving a bump to Zach Henry. And talk about Gavin Fitzgerald. We haven't talked about him for a majority of this race. He's kind of snuck his way here into the top 5 here at the finish. And he might get himself a good finish here, because I imagine these leaders are going to be going at it like crazy on this coming restart.
And this is going to be an insane restart to say the least. Can 25-11 steal this victory away from Henderson? Can Henderson steal a win away here? He has not been running well throughout some of the event after his incident earlier, but was running in the top 5, top 10. Pulled a crazy strategy here at the end, stayed out on old tires, and it could possibly work out with him going to victory lane here. Here comes the iRacing pace truck off 3 and 4 for most likely the final restart of the race. Can Henderson end up with the victory? Here they come to the restart zone, and the green flag is in the air, and Henderson does it.
Oh, big contact between our leaders. Miller gets turned around, and I think Henderson just won the race.
I think he did. I think Elliot Henderson might have just won the race. Oh my gosh, and all the 25-11 drivers wrecked out except for Henry. And this is huge for Barkuski. Like I said, Barkuski isn't locked in on points. I think he still will get in, but it's going to be very close for him.
I mean, you saw it on the restart. Elliot Henderson kind of hoping to get the caution, as he saw that as one of his best bets to get the victory here. He waits very long in the restart box to get going, and everybody behind him just starts going. The leader has not went yet, and they just started jumping the field and wrecked each other.
Like I said, when they made this call, this is Henderson's only chance at making the playoffs. It was a Hail Mary, but it might have just won him this race. We are technically out of time. I don't know how long they let you go over the time limit, but we'll have to see when they decide to throw this checkered flag. Essentially, iRacing has to throw the checkered flag. This is not decided by administration or anything. This is iRacing's decision essentially here.
And Heller has come down the pit lane. I don't understand that one, but sure, I suppose.
They haven't thrown the checkered flag yet. They're still roaming around the racetrack. We're around a minute and a half past the time. It's very possible that they could let this run for 5 minutes past the time to essentially be closing time for the server to let you save and whatever you need to do. This might be allowed here. See if we can go finish this race and have one more restart after that gnarly incident on the restart.
I mean, frankly, that's just a matter of the leader tricking the field into launching when he was not planning on launching anyway. The field jumped themselves, and it's one of those things where everybody in the field gets frustrated and gets angry, but the leader did absolutely nothing wrong. Henderson waited until some of the last moments in the box to go, seeing both Heller on the outside kind of rolling forward, trying to get a bigger jump on him, and Barkuski as well. And both of them got tripped up by the late restart and wrecked each other. I mean, it's one of those frustrating things that as a driver you wish didn't happen, but at the same time, you can't really blame the leader as he's just going within the rules.
Henderson waited till the last moment to go on that restart. We're going to see if the lights go out. I don't think they're going out this time, which would probably end the race. Oh, nope. They've changed the caution length to 1 lap to green. I honestly didn't know you could do that. And Elliot's not happy on the radio. He thought that was it. And they're going to get one more shot at this finish.
Well, that is a new one for sure. I don't think we've ever seen the yellow shortened here in the Great Lakes Truck Series, but Elliot is not happy on the driver radio.
I honestly don't blame them extending this by 1 lap because this is detrimental circumstances. This is the final regular season race, and it's going to end under time. And it looks like they've changed it again to 2 laps. So that's, I don't know.
All right, so I don't believe that was supposed to happen in the first place. They were not supposed to shorten the yellow, as that was never in the rule book for these drivers. So Elliot in this circumstance was indeed correct in that stance that I don't believe this was supposed to happen, but one of the admins participating in the event had shortened the yellow to try and get a race in, but as these drivers cross the line, it's going to end up being the last lap, which will put Elliot Henderson as tonight's winner with about 10 seconds left in the section. Elliot Henderson will be our winner at Texas Motor Speedway and win himself into the playoffs.
Let's see when they get kicked off the track. They're still on the racetrack. 1 to go to green. They're still on the racetrack, so it's not over until the fat lady sings. Not quite over yet. Henderson still has to pace around the track, take the green flag potentially, and might have to defend this victory.
This could end up being a very awkward situation here, as the time has technically run out. I believe this should be the last lap for them. I would at least think so. I don't think they're going to be getting a green-white checker. This may be a essentially 200-foot run to the checkered for these guys, as the pace truck is technically on 1 to go.
Yeah, I'm being shown 3 to go left in the race, and the lights are out, so Henderson might have to defend this. The iRacing might make them go to the checkered because it's this close.
Well, I suppose we're just going to end up seeing what happens here. The pace truck's going to take the left-hand turn. The lights are out on the pace truck. Let's see what ends up occurring in this situation. I don't think I've dealt with this for a good while, so let's see. Elliot Henderson will lead the field to green. Green flag is out. He gets a decent jump. Zach Henry is going to be in second here. All right, and yeah, I think that was it.
The field.
Oh, and the wrecking. But I think the race was already over, I'm pretty sure.
I'm seeing green flag on my screen. I don't see a checkered. I still see green flag over here. Henderson leads the field.
Well, he leads the field, and everybody behind him crashed, so if this ends up being the finish, Senzi's going to get a top 3 finish here.
And still green. I think that's the white. No, yeah, that's the white flag. The race is not over yet. I don't know what's going on with their telemetry.
Kyle, I've never seen something this confusing in my life. Everything is going all over the place. Elliot Henderson looks pretty much secured to win this race if this is supposed to be the last lap. Everybody's still going around at full bore. I'm at a loss for words, Kyle. I have nothing left.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on at this point, but Henderson's won the race. He won it.
Okay, so the lap we just watched was not the last lap. The lap previous was. So,
no, it gave Henderson the win, but he won the race by a lap. The scoring got messed up there because of the time.
All right, so we're going to have to get a manual review on this. We know Elliot Henderson's the winner, so at least we've got that. We'll be talking to him later tonight for the interviews, but we're going to have to let the admins figure out what's going on with the finishing order and who's supposed to finish where, because I've not seen something like this before.
Shane Neiswanger is very unhappy on the radio. I'm not exactly sure what he's super unhappy about, but he is not happy at all on the radio post-race. Henderson gets the job done, gets himself into the playoffs. Elliott, I talked about in the pre-race, the most winningest driver in Great Lakes Great Lakes Series competition, and it looked like it was very unlikely for him to get the playoffs unless he got the win. He wrecked out, and then it looked like impossible for him to get into the playoffs, and had all the luck he needed there at the end and was able to get the victory and get himself into the playoffs. Definitely a confusing finish to the race to unpack, but we know one thing. Elliot Henderson is our winner and will be racing in the playoffs for another championship. Mr. Bobby Carter with a clutch victory with an insane strategy and ends up with the victory. A very good performance from Mr. Bobby Carter himself. Great job.
And coming in clutch there at the finish, he was going to be extremely tight on points otherwise, but the victory secures him into the playoffs and is going to make the playoff cut line confusing, as well as he was below it. Drivers trying to battle there on the bubble have moved down a spot due to this victory, and it's going to end up having an interesting playoff order come next week. You're all going to have to tune in for Watkins Glen same time Tuesday night at 8 p.m. because the playoffs are going to have a good mix of drivers and a lot of different victories spread across the field.
Yeah, it's very interesting finish to the race right here, and we'll have to see what the official results are. We know that Henderson has made the playoffs He's won the race for E95, but who will be the remaining finishing order of this race? Who will get points to maybe get themselves into the playoffs? Sensi with the great performance, finishing at least, it looked like at least in the 4th position in that number 92 machine. And he was coming into this race, I think he was the first driver out on points. And RG Williams finishing all the way back in 20th. So that could be huge for Sensi.
Yeah, it could be very big for him with that finish. So that's another driver we're going to be looking at the playoffs as well. But while we're coming in to the interview booth here to finally talk to the race winner, Elliot Henderson. Well, you got the win. You pulled the strategy call. No tires there at the finish. The cautions just kept on coming, allowed you to get the victory despite a very confusing finish for us up here in the booth. But, I mean, how you feeling? You're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna score it because we ran technically a lap, but when I crossed the line, apparently it closed the race for everyone else and just let me go. So I guess I was the only one racing that lap. But, yep, I'm kind of speechless for the first time.
Yeah, speechless is definitely the question for certain. I mean, earlier on in the race, we saw you sideways running with the leaders, trying to take positions up inside the top 4. And I mean, your race went up and down. You started a little bit further back in the field, kind of the back half, the top 10, slowly worked your way up. So I guess the big question for me here is, what was it like to try and pass people here at this racetrack? Because it didn't look to be the easiest, but it didn't look impossible either.
Terrible. It was not fun. Arrows sucks here, but everyone drives into turn 1 so hard, and that's the only turn that's really going to kill your right front. So if you can just kind of position yourself to not kill your tire there, and just make sure that you can conserve it, you can get a better run off. And then getting into 3 and 4, all you needed to do is stay wide open. And some people could, some people couldn't. The rear end was really wishy-washy through that whole corner, but yeah, it's just made for like really aggressive blocks and stupid stuff that was needing to happen for people to maintain positions, which, we're all trying to fight for playoff spots and stuff. So it's going to happen and people are going to get frustrated and everything. But at the end of the day, I think all that I needed to do was have good restarts. And we did that. And we survived all 3 of the green, white checkers. And I guess we locked ourselves in Tony Stewart style because we sure as hell don't deserve to be here, but we'll see what Talladega brings and how we can progress forward.
Yeah, that's another thing I was interested, because we talked about you to start the night. You were one of the most interesting figures that were outside of the playoffs that we knew was in it last year, had consistent speed, but just had not had the results this year. And we were wondering whether it was going to take a victory to get into the playoffs tonight. And with the way everything kind of seemed to work out, and with how a lot of your competitors above you in the points were, it seemed like the victory was the only option. So did you rate yourself highly to get the win tonight?
Yeah, I figured second, third place finish wasn't going to be enough. These fields coming in 21 back underneath 5 drivers, like, you're not just going to really point your way in. I mean, towards the end, we're sitting there adding it up and looking at it like, maybe it's a possibility with where everybody's at, because my wreck took out Steve and, or Jackson, I believe, Sims, and then Matt Rodriguez and like a couple other guys. RJ was pretty killed too. So it hurt all the guys in the bubble or on the bubble. So, I was sitting there like, well, if we get caught and we finish second or third, it might be okay. But, at the end of the day, if you can seal it with the win, that's what we want to do. So, that's, I, I feel like Motegi owed me because that was the one that got away from me. Charlotte, we probably should have had that one. And there's a couple races you can go back and add up, but I just knew that we could get it done still, but it just took all those restarts.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of restarts there at the finish. That's what ended up handing you the keys to victory. But before we end up letting you go, you've won. You've made yourself into the playoffs, and so this is a special time for you to thank any sponsors, friends, and family who helped you get here.
Dude, so at the beginning of the year or season, I was like, we're gonna get all 5 of our guys in these playoffs, and half the playoff grid is 25 or E95. I almost said 2511. But I think half of it is 2511 if we're honest. But we accomplished the only goal that we really set out to do this season, which was to get all 5 drivers in the playoffs. Since he's going to replace Bransky moving forward, just because Bransky's not going to keep going full time. But we did what we needed to do. We got all 5 of our guys in, and now we can push towards Talladega. And I don't even know what the playoff schedule is. I just know that Talladega is next because I haven't even thought that I'd be able to make it in. So we've never missed the playoffs in a full-time season, and we didn't start that this season.
Well, I'm afraid to let you know you're pulling a Chase Elliott. It's Watkins Glen next week, Elliott.
Dude, Hunter Madalinas has been telling me that we're going to Talladega for like the last 4 hours. So he is a big Chase Elliott fan, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, thanks to all the guys that make this shit work out or stuff work out. Obviously Michael Sensi, Hunter Madalinas, Jake Miller, Austin Moore, and TCB was here tonight, had a good run. And if I don't thank Nanny, because I feel like him and I have gotten into so many battles and I've been wrecked by him so many times, and I feel ruined out of last season's playoffs because of Kansas. Huge kudos to him, because he helped me out when we were battling with Zach and Brandon there, and I got too aggressive. Like, that's on me. If Brandon listens to this back, like, that's definitely not his fault. When Zach got pushed wide, I just kind of made a dumb move to try to force myself through the middle and try to get both of them. But kudos to Nanny for working with me there and trying to make this work out, and at the end of the day, it did. So I'll take it.
All right, well, congratulations, Elliott. You've pulled it off tonight here at Texas Motor Speedway, finding yourself into the playoffs. And we'll be seeing you next week, and hope you get another good run to advance yourself further on.
Well, now that it's Watkins Glen, I'm a lot less excited, but
yeah,
we'll look forward to it.
I got it wrong. It is Talladega.
Oh, thanks, Alex.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Now I feel really good. Let's go to Talladega. This is awesome. I'm happy.
We did one of them. We did
good
one.
note to end on.
We did the Elliott. All right.
Perfect.
Glad to talk to you here, Elliott.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been a while. Have a good night.
See you later, Elliott. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my mistake. It is Talladega next week. Just double check the schedule to make sure. But we're going to be heading down to the 2.66 mile super speedway next week, Kyle, and not the road course. And that should make it for an interesting time, because drivers are going to be going all over the place at that track.
Yeah, Talladega, always fun, to say the least. And Watkins Glen, left and right hand turns, then it's pretty calm. The calm of the storm, I'd say, is Kentucky. But Kentucky, for a speedway, isn't all that calm, especially when you get down into 3 and 4, which is possibly one of the most difficult turns on an oval in NASCAR.
Yeah, could be the most difficult for sure, as people just end up crashing into each other. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch these drivers negotiate these upcoming racetracks. It's going to be fun. Make sure you tune in next Tuesday at 8 p.m. for that, and it'll be a hell of a lot of fun, right, Kyle? I'm sure you'll be enjoying a good amount of it as well.
Yeah, it should be a blast, as it always is here at the Great Lakes Series, especially here at the Truck Series. Should be a lot of fun in Dega, Alabama. Should be a lot of fun. See who maybe gets to victory lane, maybe lock themselves into the round of 8, and we'll see what happens. I don't really have any updates on any race results. I don't know if you have anything over there, Alex, on official race results, possibly.
Well, from what I can see going on to the standings, we're going to be looking at how everything finished up at the latest race results. It looks like Shane Neiswanger pulled away with the second finishing spot, and Brett Kingcott came away with third, with Senzi fourth. So that's how it's showing up on the point standings on our full-on standings tab that we have. So it's gonna... It was definitely a confusing one, but it seems like what we got here at the finish was what ended up happening.
Very interesting finish to the race. Probably one of the most controversial finishes ever, but Henderson was able to snag that victory. Any last thoughts before we head out for the playoffs?
I could say that I don't believe next week will nearly be as confusing as we had a finish here tonight. It's Talladega. It'll be fun for certain, but it's going to be an absolute blast for sure.
That does it for the regular season. Elliot Henderson able to snag the victory and get himself into the playoffs once again here in the last race. No better time to steal the victory in a very crazy race here at Texas. A very long broadcast. Would like to shout out our other two members of the top three, Shane Diceswanger and Brett Kinkott. Unfortunately for the long broadcast, and unable to really figure out the race results until just now, pretty much. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring you those interviews for tonight, but we expect to see you next week at Talladega as we start the playoffs, the round of 12, the fastest track in the U.S., fastest track in the world, Talladega Super Speedway, and it should be fun, 2 and 3 wide, and we'll see you right here on the Flatout Racing Network, and have a great night, everybody.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.